I was reborn the day before my best friend burned my house down. She had a fight with her boyfriend and moved into my place for a couple of days. Little did I know, the very next day, while I was out grocery shopping, she set my house on fire. She walked away without a care, leaving me saddled with millions in debt. The day I paid off my debt, I was hit by a car and died. The moment I opened my eyes, I saw my home, not yet burned to cinders. I pinched myself. It hurt. This was no dream. I glanced at the calendar on my phone confirmed it was the day before the house burned down. Since fate has given me a second chance, I'm determined to live my life to the fullest this time. The custom ringtone for my best friend blared for a full 10 minutes before I finally answered. If I didn't pick up, she'd show up at my door in a heartbeat. I couldn't let that happen. Amber, Donovan says he's breaking up with me and wants me out of his place. My best friend Lilith sobbed over the phone, hearing her voice. I was reminded of my past life. In that past life, I was afraid she'd be wronged, so I let her stay at my place for a while. She seemed perfectly fine on the first day, but on the second, she went mad, locking herself in the room and burning it down with her inside. From then on, my life was nothing but endless suffering and unpayable debts. Lilith, do you have any money on you? I asked anxiously, though I knew she'd handed her pay card over to her boyfriend. What could she possibly have? I don't. And I don't have my ID either. Can I stay at your place for a while? She sobbed, her voice full of hurt and a hint of resentment. What? He's holding on to your ID too? No, we have to report this to the police. He's getting worse by the day, I exclaimed. There was no way I was letting her stay. Please don't. He'll hit me if you do, Lilith said, her tone pleading and wounded. Don't be scared. The police will look after you. Besides, without an ID, you can't even check into a hotel, I said, feigning a troubled tone. Can I stay at your place, just for a couple of days? I'll make up with Donovan, she suggested again, asking to stay with me. Absolutely not. I don't want to be saddled with another decades-long debt in this lifetime. Thankfully, Lilith has always thought I was renting the place. I gently turned her down, saying, Lilith, the landlord said no guests are allowed to stay. Let me think of another solution for you. Can't you ask him to make an exception? I really have nowhere else to go, she whimpered on the other end of the line. I hung up on her without hesitation and immediately dialed the 3-digit emergency number. Through tears, I told the police that my best friend was being held captive by her boyfriend, who wouldn't even give her ID back. After giving the police her address, I switched my phone to airplane mode, ready to start my new life. I urgently requested 10 days of annual leave from my supervisor, packed my bags, and got ready for a spontaneous trip. I asked the older sister living across the hall to keep an eye out for me. If anyone came looking, she was to say I was away on a business trip. The benefits of being on good terms with the neighbor paid off. She agreed with a smile. No questions asked. As for the destination, I hadn't given it a thought. I'd just buy a ticket at the airport on a whim. There was no way I was turning my phone's flight mode off today. 2. It was a perfect spring day, with flowers in bloom and a refreshing sea breeze. I was in my swimsuit and sunglasses, lounging on a beach chair, soaking up the sun and enjoying life. I've been scrolling through trending news all day, but unfortunately, there was no sign of Lilith. Ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling, my custom ringtone went off. At this very moment, wasn't she supposed to have perished in the flames? The incessant ringing made the man in sunglasses, lounging on the beach chair next to me, turn his head to look. Feeling socially anxious, I pressed the answer button. Amber, didn't I tell you not to call the police? Lilith's voice was bordering on hysterical. Lilith, I did this for your own good. Why can't you understand that? I took a sip of coconut water, my voice tinged with hurt. You've ruined Donovan. Do you realize that? He says he's breaking up with me. Because of you, Donovan and I are over. Just you wait. I'm coming to see you right now. The sound of rushing wind came from Lilith's end of the line. She must have been on the move. What's the big deal about me, your best friend, crashing at your place for a couple of days? Did you really have to make such a scene? She was still screaming into the wind, but I didn't care. I hung up on her and blocked her number right then and there. It'd be a miracle if she could find me today. The guy in sunglasses next to me was still looking my way. I gave him a slight smile and gave him a once-over. Not bad looking. A real broad-shouldered hunk. My eyes traveled lower. Ahem. That's a bit much. In my past life, I never even got close to a man. What a total waste. But in this life, I might just give it a try. But before I could even give it a try, my neighbor sent me a message to share some juicy gossip. Today, Lilith first showed up at my office looking for me. The receptionist said I wasn't in, so she threw a fit and the security guards promptly escorted her out. Then she went to my house. After knocking for a long time with no answer, she hired a locksmith to pick the lock while the locksmith was working on the lock. My neighbor, who was just returning from shopping, saw them and demanded to know why they were breaking into someone's home. Lilith said she couldn't reach me and was worried something had happened to me at home, so she urgently called a locksmith. The neighbor lady told her I was away on a business trip and asked her to leave. Lilith didn't believe it and insisted on getting the lock opened. The neighbor lady lost her temper and immediately called the police, reporting a home invasion. Only then did the locksmith realize this wasn't Lilith's home. He cursed his bad luck, grabbed his tools, and took off. Lilith got herself another free bus ride today. Who knows what happens next? I thanked the neighbor profusely, but she just said, "Don't mention it. Just help me find a boyfriend." I'm absolutely furious. Lilith is completely unhinged. She never thinks about the consequences. I dread to think what would have happened if Lilith had gotten into my house today. Would she have burned it down? Just like in my past life, our family backgrounds were worlds apart. She grew up in comfort and was the apple of her family's eye, completely sheltered from life's hardships. I was raised by my grandmother, who collected scrap to make ends meet. After my brother was born, my parents left to work in the city as a family of 3, never returning even for holidays. My grandmother never went to school, but she hoped I would get a good education and see the world beyond our mountain village. As a top student, I was specially recruited by a private high school, which not only waived my tuition but also provided a scholarship. Meeting Lilith was a complete accident. Back in our sophomore year of high school, she was being bullied by the school's top mean girl. Seeing her crying her eyes out, I couldn't just walk by, so I stepped in to help. From then on, I earned the nickname Lilith's Shadow. Lilith always told me I was her best friend and that I shouldn't care what anyone else said. My life was all about studying and making money. Whenever I felt lost and miserable, Lilith would be there for me, offering patient comfort and advice. Back then, I truly considered her my one and only best friend in the world. Lilith started dating Donovan in college. When her parents objected, she went on a hunger strike. For some reason, they eventually accepted him and even bought them an apartment. Donovan was a troublemaker. He never took his studies seriously in college, often getting into fights, skipping classes, and messing around. I warned her many times that Donovan was no good, but she immediately turned around and told him exactly what I said. I've wanted to end our friendship for a long time, but Lilith is so clingy. She calls and texts me every day, saying she worries about me being out on my own and that it's not safe. I don't have many friends, and she's the one I see the most. Aside from her messy entanglement with Donovan, she's been decent to me. Our friendship has just been coasting along at a lukewarm temperature. As for her new apartment, to save Donovan's pride, she stole her household registration booklet to marry him, then gifted the property to him. Now, the deed is solely in Donovan's name. There's no talking sense into Lilith when it comes to her love-struck foolishness, and frankly, I've given up trying. Lying in the hotel's king-sized bed, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. I need to figure out how to distance myself from Lilith, that walking time bomb. Once I get back. 3. Since I took leave on short notice and didn't hand off my work to anyone, my boss called me back to the office on the 5th day. The struggles of a corporate drone, who can truly understand. Before I even boarded the plane, I messaged Lilith's parents about her recent situation, asking them to talk some sense into her. I can't let that lunatic come to my office and harass me. In my past life, the fire didn't just destroy my house and take Lilith's life, it also burned down the neighbors' homes, millions in damages, all of which I had to bear. Lilith's parents didn't help me repay a single cent. They insisted Lilith could never have committed suicide, claiming my house must have spontaneously combusted and that Lilith couldn't escape. Their daughter was perfectly fine. How could she possibly have been driven to take her own life? It must have been my fault. So, after I was kind enough to take you in, it's still my fault in the end. For the rest of my life, I just want this family to leave me alone. I need to live my own life properly. Half a month after returning to work, I had just clocked out when I saw Lilith and Donovan right at the company's main entrance. "Amber, long time no see. My bad about last time," Lilith said with a grin, linking her arm through mine, putting on a show of being best buddies. "Donovan and I are here to make amends. How about joining us for dinner?" I glanced at Donovan, who was forcing a smile. This guy was a master manipulator, not someone to mess with. "Lilith, I acted impulsively last time, but you're not blameless either. You said Donovan had your ID, and I just panicked." The moment those pitiful words left my mouth, Donovan's expression turned icy cold. The air grew thick with danger. "Dinner tonight? No way. That's a setup if I've ever seen one. I'm not going." "Oh, I must not have been clear last time, but what a coincidence that you're on a business trip." Lilith latched onto my arm with a vice-like grip, squeezing until it hurt. Company orders, I said, feigning regret. Lilith, what terrible timing. We have a company team building event tonight. Next time, dinner's on me. I quickly pulled my arm free from hers and made a beeline for the first person I saw standing idle by the company entrance. Amber, that's a man. Are you seeing someone? Lilith was shocked, glaring fiercely at my arm linked with my colleague's. How could you be in a relationship? I looked up, and sure enough, it was a man. I was so focused on the clothes earlier, I didn't even notice the person's gender. Why on earth is this guy wearing a pink shirt, though? His arms, not bad, pretty muscular. The real question is, who is that he's with? I don't even know them. Whatever, getting rid of these two nuisances in front of me is the priority. To my work friends, we're heading off now. I'll get the next round. I linked arms with the man and made a swift exit. As if a pack of rabid dogs were on my heels, Lilith stamped her foot in frustration, then took the arm of a stony-faced Donovan and led him to her car. Watching their car drive into the distance, I finally let out a sigh of relief and hastily withdrew my hand. What, you're just going to use me and toss me aside, the man said, his gentle voice tinged with resignation. Sorry about that. Next time our paths cross, I'll treat you to a meal. Gotta run. With that, he dashed off without waiting for a reply. No matter. I'll make sure you keep that promise, the man murmured under his breath. I was running too fast to catch what he said after that. Not that it's any of my business. Anyway, I was pretty shaken up today, not willing to gamble on whether that lunatic Lilith might be waiting for me at the apartment gate. I just booked a room at a hotel near the office to rest, for Lilith and Donovan are a perfect match in dysfunction. He emotionally manipulates her, and she laps it up. In the middle of the night, I was jolted awake by the phone ringing. It was an unknown number. After I hung up, they called right back. What kind of lunatic keeps calling me in the middle of the night? I just turned my phone off to avoid any drama. The moment I turned my phone back on the next day, Lilith's mom called. What's up, Mrs. Last name? I answered. Amber, what on earth is going on between you and Lilith? She said she went to see you and you wouldn't open the door. Then some busybody with nothing better to do called the cops and got her hauled down to the station. The person on the other end was fuming. Who else could have called the police? It was almost certainly my beautiful, kind-hearted neighbor. Lilith never learns. Doesn't she know there are cameras in the hallway? Auntie Chio, I was working on a proposal last night and had to pull an unexpected all-nighter at the office, so I didn't come home, I explained in a low, pitiful voice, secretly gloating inside. Well, she tried calling you, but you didn't answer and your phone was off. Shall you had to go bail her out personally, Auntie Chio declared with full authority. So that late-night call was from Lilith, disturbing my peace in the middle of the night. Good thing I turned my phone off. Well, if your daughter's in trouble, who else is going to bail her out if not her husband? Auntie Chio, about Lilith and Donovan, you should really talk some sense into them. Tell them to stop fighting. Couples who bicker too much risk damaging the bond between them, I pleaded earnestly. I hung up on her right after saying that. So annoying. Lilith's mother was still too proud. She didn't call back. I'm just a little butterfly causing a hurricane. Lilith can't handle me keeping my distance, so she keeps ambushing me at the office entrance for no good reason. Luckily, I gave the security guard a heads up beforehand to call me if he spots her hanging around the company entrance. I don't know how she has so much free time on her hands since we started working. We've barely met in person and mostly chat on our phones, yet now, she shows up to stake out my workplace 2 or 3 times a week. To avoid her, I end up working late at the office every single time, and I've even crashed in the little annex in my boss's office on occasion. This company currently has a partnership with the Chiu family. In my past life, pressure from Mr. and Mrs. Chiu forced me to resign. In this life, Lilith is too busy trying to catch me to go off the rails and set a fire. But I can't guarantee she won't do something else extreme. If I don't want to get burned, I need to tackle this at the source and draw a clear line between myself and Lilith, and I have no intention of going through that forced resignation again. After wrestling with my thoughts, I finally knocked on my manager's office door. Come in, a mature woman's voice replied, carrying a hint of chill. Miss Young, I'm handing in my resignation. I mustered all my courage to finally say it. Amber, you're always so reliable. Why the sudden? Manager Young spun her pen, fixing me with a piercing gaze. My parents have both fallen ill, so I need to go home to take care of them. Sorry, Mom and Dad, who gave birth to me but never raised me. I'll just have to make use of whatever's left of your value. I've already put in a request with upper management for you to be my deputy supervisor. It's a real shame you're leaving now. Sigh. I wasn't made deputy supervisor in my last life either. The Chiu family just shoved some deputy supervisor in here. It was never meant for me, Sister Yang. I want to spend more time with My parents, I said, tactfully declining. It's not like that position would have ended up being mine anyway. You're right, we should spend more time with our elders, Sister Young said thoughtfully. Approved. Go write your resignation letter, and I'll sign it. I hadn't expected my boss to be so understanding. Employees who had resigned under her before had often been reduced to tears by her scolding. I guess I got lucky. After spending a week handing over my duties, I submitted my resignation. Letter to Sister Young. All right, Sister Young said, handing the signed letter back to me. Tonight, we'll all have a farewell dinner, my treat. I'll handle things with HR for you. You just go home and focus on taking care of your parents. I can't accept this. I can't let you spend your own money to get the signature so easily and then have her treat me to a meal. Who would have thought the usually strict Sister Young was such a kind soul? No problem. I'll have security see your friend out. Today, you can just leave directly this afternoon. Sister Young smiled slyly. Everything was under her control. 5, as luck would have it. While we were singing at the KTV, Lilith swung open our private room door, her expression somewhat fierce. Amber, long time no see. Why haven't you been replying to my messages lately? I've been so worried about you, Lilith said, composing herself. Stepping forward to link arms with me in a friendly manner. Your company is so great, always having team building events. Let's step outside to talk. I signaled to my colleague who had paused singing to continue, then took Lilith's hand and led her out of the private room. I guided her to the bustling main hall, and as soon as we sat down on a sofa, Lilith was the first to speak. What's wrong with you? You've been avoiding me lately. Did I do something wrong? You haven't been home, and that shrew across the hall keeps calling the cops on me, Lilith said, her voice tinged with hurt and resentment. Serves you right for getting caught. I'm avoiding you because I don't want to be saddled with your debts. I knew she'd come looking for me, and I've already got my excuses ready. Lilith, my parents are sick and it's going to cost a fortune. I've been pulling all-nighters to finish this proposal. I'm completely wiped out. I rubbed my temples, my face etched with exhaustion. Money has a way of souring even the closest friendships. Didn't you say they never cared about you? Lilith dodged the question, steering clear of the money topic entirely. Why not just leave them to it? They're my own parents. I can't just abandon them. Lilith, please, could you lend me $300,000 to tide me over? I pleaded, my voice laced with a fawning tone. All my money is with Donovan. Could you stop being such a blind fool? Lilith instinctively touched the tip of her nose, a telltale sign she was lying. Lilith, you don't want to help me, do you? I lowered my head, my gaze fixed on the ground. That's not it. Look, my friend's nightclub is hiring servers. Why don't you apply? Lilith really had a brilliant idea for me. I'm not going to a place like that. Didn't you say we were best friends? Lilith, are you really refusing to help me? I raised an eyebrow, a bit annoyed. So it's just PUA. I can do that too. Well, Donovan is about to get off work. I should head home. Amber, I'll think of something for your parents' situation. Lilith grabbed her Chanel bag and left without a second thought. If I remember correctly, that bag of hers costs more than $300,000, doesn't it? So that's where the stinginess comes from. The Cho couple pulled that dirty trick back then just to avoid compensating me for my losses, and today, the mention of $300,000 was enough to make Lilith stop pestering me. Perfect, but Lilith, what you owe me from our past life goes far beyond just money. As soon as Lilith left, I went to the front desk to settle the bill. I really couldn't let Sister Young pay for this one too. The dinner tonight had already cost her over $1,000. Is your friend gone? My colleague asked me, her face flushed. She was clearly quite drunk. She's gone. Let's enjoy ourselves. I smiled faintly. Couldn't $300,000 buy off that friendship? After everyone had eaten and drunk their fill, I saw all my colleagues off, then bowed deeply to Sister Young to thank her for her help. Family comes first. Don't live with regrets. After saying that, Sister Young got in a cab and left. That whole matter was finally put to rest. After quitting my job, the next issue was my apartment. There was no way I could keep living there. I planned to find a burly man to rent my place. Lilith is scared of big, tough guys. I posted the rental listing, and it wasn't until the next day that someone named Tough Guy added me on WeChat. I clicked on his profile picture. Not bad biceps. Me, looking to rent. Tough Guy. I gotta ask, is that place haunted or something? Me, Tough Guy. It's 30% cheaper than other places in your complex, but the catch is you have to be a tall, well-built guy to qualify. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Me, interested. There's a surprise. Me, my neighbor is a real looker, single and available. Tough Guy. Perfect. I'm single and unmarried too. I'll rent that haunted house of yours. I'll come by later to sign the contract. Well, so this is what a real man is like. TSK. The man arrived quickly. He was wearing a short-sleeved shirt, With a full-sleeve tattoo on his left arm, he was muscular and looked like someone you wouldn't want to mess with, probably capable of handling Lilith. While we were talking in the hallway, the neighbor lady opened her door, holding a stick. Seeing me chatting amiably with him, she gave an awkward smile and closed the door. "She's quite a looker. Mind if I take a look at your place?" The tough guy didn't mince words. After a quick walkthrough, he agreed to a year's lease on the spot, even threw in an extra $8,000 to cover the shortfall. With a guy this decisive and built like that, he's sure to keep my property safe, right? After signing the contract, I took him to the property management office to get acquainted and explained the real reason behind the low rent. My big brother didn't mind at all. He waved it off as nothing, picked up my luggage, and walked me out of the complex. Lilith hasn't bothered me with a new number these past few days. Instead, a stranger on WeChat transferred me 300,000 yuan. I sent a message asking who they were, but it was blocked, so this person blocked me right after sending the money. I opened the transfer details and saw the last character of the name was Juan. I don't know anyone whose name ends with Juan. Is this a scam? I blocked them immediately. As long as I don't accept the money, it'll be automatically refunded in 24 hours and I'm in the clear. 6. Now I have two choices: either go back to the countryside to be with my grandma, or move to a different city to look for a job. The vibrancy of the city has long captured my heart. Young people should strive for progress and not indulge in comfort. Naturally, I choose to build my future in the city. I've been so busy these past few days sending resumes to over a dozen companies in the neighboring city that I haven't had a moment to spare for Lilith's situation. A few days later, a stranger kept trying to add me on WeChat, thinking it might be a company contacting me for an interview. I accepted the request. "Amber, are you really avoiding me? I went to your place and you weren't there. Your company said you resigned. I got 10 grand from Donovan. Do you still need it?" A barrage of questions came pinging in one after another. It had to be Lilith, no question about it. Who knows where she gets all these WeChat accounts and phone numbers from? Unemployed bum here, sold a kidney and got the cash. No need. Thanks. That one sentence covered all the questions. Lilith always has a different focus than everyone else. Where on earth do kidneys cost that much? Lilith, is your company hiring? Could I be the planning director? You could help me with this small favor, right? Seriously, it hasn't even been that long since things settled down, and here we go again. Amber, what are you talking about? I'm just a junior clerk. How could I possibly hire a manager on a whim? The reply came quickly. Have you forgotten how you desperately fought to get Donovan that manager position at the Cho family's company? Lilith, you won't even help me with this small favor. I sent a crying emoji. Go to sleep. You can dream about it. After saying that, Lilith stopped replying. So this is the bestie who said I could always turn to her if I couldn't find a job. Good thing I never took her seriously, but fighting fire with fire, that move felt damn good. The company I applied to responded quite quickly. I ended up deciding to interview with a small to medium-sized company that provides meals and accommodation, with strict dormitory management. I checked before going. The new company has no business partnership with Cho's company, so I don't have to worry about being forced to resign. The interview went smoothly. The HR told me to start work the next day, and I could go arrange my dorm room this afternoon. The dormitory isn't far from the company. There are even two older gentlemen stationed outside the door with batons. The security measures are indeed well implemented. HR informed me that the dormitory does not allow anyone other than company personnel to enter. That alone is enough to stop Lilith from staying with me. My new life. Here I come. 7. The work was quite similar to what I'd done before, so I settled into the new job quickly. In the midst of my busy schedule, my neighbor, an older sister I hadn't spoken to in ages, sent me a video that was over 10 minutes long. The video was packed with content, and she had even thoughtfully edited it and added subtitles for me. Lilith tipped Donovan to knock on my door, but a tough-looking guy answered. Lilith looked the tough guy up and down, saying my taste was really something. Never thought I'd be into this type of guy. Donovan's face practically turned black with rage upon hearing her words. Xiaohu bought for document anti-copying. Choose Xiaohu for finding books. Stable and reliable. Heavy checkmark. No pitfalls. The tough guy told them to get lost, saying it was his house and to stop making a scene. Lilith refused to believe him and tried to force her way in. The tough guy just grabbed her by the ponytail, dragged her out, slammed the door, and ignored her furious pounding from outside. Fast forward a bit, and the cops showed up. Lilith was the one who called them. The police have been coming to my place a lot these past few months. Lilith told them the tough guy had broken into my home, that she thought I'd been kidnapped by him, and she needed the police to rescue me. The tough guy answered the door and immediately Handed the rental contract to the officers. Lilith and Donovan then got a good talking to from the cops right there in the hallway. They slunk away with their tails between their legs. Even through the video, I could feel the police officers' helplessness. They get called out for such trivial matters every time. The neighbor girl was still gushing about how manly the guy next door is. She wants to ask him out. I replied, sis, just get out more. Use your charm to win him over. The neighbor girl sent back an okay emoji at the new company. I've met many friendly colleagues, starting from the bottom. I'm soaking up new knowledge like a sponge, and my coworkers are happy to help me. See, Lilith, look how well I'm doing since I left you, unable to find me. Lilith somehow got hold of my parents' phone number. She called them to ask what illness they had and if they were cured. That phone call nearly sent my ungrateful parents to an early grave. My mother spent a solid hour on the phone, cursing me out without a single pause. I turned the phone volume all the way down, focused on my proposal document, and gave the occasional one-word reply. Sensing my half-hearted responses, she actually cursed me with having no descendants. I just said, don't curse yourselves, I'm your flesh and blood. Only then did they back down and hang up. Honestly, you've ignored me since I was a kid, and now you rush to scold me over such a minor thing. Little Tiger bot prevents document forgery. Choose Little Tiger for bookfinding bots, reliable and hassle free. Their hearts only have room for their precious son. If I hadn't moved my household registration out for college, I'd be a real-life brother-obsessed slave. In my past life, when they found out my house burned down, their first reaction wasn't to ask if I was okay. Instead, they asked when I bought the house and why I didn't put it under my brother's name. They even said that if it were under my brother's name, they could pull some strings and sue the Chiu family in court, making sure they paid for the damages. A property under my name would just end up benefiting outsiders, even if they helped. A married-off daughter is like spilled water. You can't take it back, and they forbade me from killing myself, telling me to pay off my debts first before ending my life, so I wouldn't drag them down. What a pair of characters my parents are. If I didn't look a bit like them, I'd swear I was adopted. 8. I wonder if Lilith's life is just too comfortable, that she has to go looking for trouble. She completely charmed my parents and talked them into letting her visit my hometown to meet my grandmother. My parents accepted $880 from her and gave my hometown address to Lilith. I only found out about this whole thing because she sent me a photo of my old family home and I confronted her image. Amber, is this your grandma? Look, she's gardening. She looks so lonely. How about I find something for grandma to do? Lilith texted me again from another unknown number. Seeing that message made my blood boil. Those two are genuinely stupid, while Lilith is truly insane. In my past life, the person I wronged the most was my grandmother. She raised me, yet never enjoyed a single day of comfort. She knew I had debts to pay. On the day she was leaving, she called to tell me her savings were buried under the walnut tree back home, for me to use. I was out on business at the time and hastily hung up on Grandma's call, completely failing to notice how weak her voice sounded. She suffered her whole life. Her son and daughter-in-law didn't support her, and her beloved granddaughter, buried in debt, had no time to care for her. She passed away quietly, without disturbing a soul. It was the neighbors who noticed Grandma hadn't left the house for days. They went to my place and found she had passed away from illness. If I get another chance at life, I will definitely bring Grandma to live with me. In this lifetime, I will make sure she lives a life of comfort and ease. To kill a snake, you must strike its head. Lilith has found my Achilles heel, but I can't just let her run wild. Lilith, come back, let's talk this through. My fingers trembling, I slowly sent the text. Lilith's reply was just 2 words, too late. In a panic, I rushed out of the office. I found the number for my old neighbor, also my middle school classmate, and called her, begging her to watch out for any strangers and to keep them away from Grandma. My classmate told me not to worry. She said she'd bring my grandmother to stay at her place in the next few days, so I could focus on my work without any concerns. Some people are just naturally drawn to fire, like Lilith. Her solution was to burn down my family home. She didn't care at all whether my grandmother was in the house. All she wanted was to teach me a lesson, to make me understand she wasn't someone I could simply hide from. What she didn't know was that, since I'm away from home most of the year, a friend had helped install a few security cameras near my house. This allowed me to check on my grandmother through the video feed. The surveillance footage clearly shows exactly how my family's old house caught fire this time. The fire that destroyed the old house was a case of deliberate arson, captured on camera. That's a serious crime. The Chiu family quickly dispatched a team of professional lawyers. With such ironclad evidence, unless we choose to settle, the arson suspect is looking at several years behind bars. To this day, I still can't understand why Lilith is so unhinged. All I ever did was keep my distance, yet she's been relentlessly coming after me and even tried to harm the person who matters most to me. I'm going to see this through to the end. I can't be on guard against her erratic outbursts all the time. Unfortunately, I overestimated my heartless parents and underestimated the powerful Chiu family in the end. My parents and grandmother chose to settle. The Chiu family compensated my family with $2 million on the spot. My classmate told me, voice trembling with tears, "Amber, you need to see this clearly. Your parents are utterly despicable. While we're here taking care of grandma, they're groveling like lapdogs to please those people." I know, but how could grandma agree to a settlement? I was astonished. Grandma would never agree to settle so easily. Grandma demanded your parents pay $600,000 and sign a document severing all ties with you. From now on, you have no obligation or responsibility to support them. Your parents signed the papers for $1 million, and only then did grandma agree to the settlement. Just send me all the money, and I'll transfer it to you right away. My classmate's tone was tinged with sorrow. Just give me $400,000, you keep the rest. Consider it a small token of my gratitude. All these years I was away, my classmate was the one looking after my grandma back home. Giving her $200,000 is more than worth it. She hung up without another word, and not long after $600,000 landed in my bank account. I transferred her $100,000, asking her family to look after grandma for the time being. I'll come pick her up as soon as I finish my work. My classmate finally agreed to take the money, promising to take good care of grandma. She told me not to come back and to focus on my work, saying she hopes I have a bright future. Lilith was clever this time. The surveillance footage shows she had someone else set the fire, so even if she does time, it won't be for long. The Chiu family agreed to pay because they don't want Lilith to have a criminal record. I should actually thank her for accidentally helping me cut ties. You have no idea how thrilled I am. Let them enjoy their $1 million for the rest of their lives. The Chiu family's money isn't so easy to take. Lilith returned safely, but now she has a female bodyguard shadowing her. Looking at the setup, it seems less like protection and more like surveillance. 9. Just as my internship ended and I was about to become a full-time employee, Lilith's mother asked to meet me at a cafe not far from my office. The news got out again. I've become a social ghost. The Chiu family's reach is truly formidable this time. Auntie Chiu was very polite to me, no longer putting on airs. She even stood up to greet me as I approached. "Amber, could you come back to work in S-City? Lilith can't manage without you." "Can't manage without me? That's a joke. I'm not into that sort of thing. Auntie Chiu, Lilith has a husband, Mr. You treats her quite well. She can be a bit extreme, you know. Her father and I realized it too late." Auntie Chiu took a sip of her coffee, her expression distant. "Her extremism is a fatal blow to me." I stood up and bowed. "Auntie Chiu, if Lilith has issues, you can take her to see a psychologist. I can't answer psychological questions. It's not my field of expertise." "Amber, your company isn't very large. What do you think would happen if the Chiu family acquired it?" Auntie Chiu didn't seem surprised by my refusal. She looked up and started negotiating terms. "What a joke. If you could actually acquire our company, couldn't I just quit and find another job? Besides, does the Chiu family even have that kind of capability? The Chiu family is wealthy and influential. You're welcome to try an acquisition." With that, I grabbed my bag and left. The Chiu family has money. For them, any problem that can be solved with money isn't a problem at all. So what if they're rich? In my past life, they turned on me over a mere few million, accusing me of causing their daughters' death. In this life, they think they can settle with my parents for $2 million after setting the fire. That will only make Lilith even more brazen. Lilith's madness didn't come from nowhere. The Chiu couple have always indulged her, letting her live a wild and unrestrained life. Apart from the time she was bullied in high school, Lilith has always been utterly self-centered. I just don't know what the Chiu family will do this time. A few days later, a ridiculously handsome guy was parachuted into our company. He was young, tall, broad-shouldered, and strikingly good-looking, just a bit familiar somehow. "Team-building girl, what are you doing at our company?" the handsome guy in a white shirt asked with a mischievous grin. "What the hell is team-building girl?" I really wanted to jump up and slap him silly. Haha. I flashed a perfect, 8-tooth smile. "Pink shirt guy, beach sunglasses dude, be good now. Don't go giving people random nicknames," he said with a gentle laugh. "Wait, I was the one who started with the nicknames. Ugh, that jerk, and to think he's my new colleague. Interesting. You even managed to lure that worm from the Chiu family here," the handsome guy said with a grin before sauntering off, leaving a bunch of gossip-hungry coworkers behind. "What's going on? Do you know the big boss?" "But the big boss is so handsome. It's my first time seeing him, too." "Yeah, there's something going on between you two." Teasing voices from my colleagues rose all around me. Only then did I realize that this handsome guy was actually our company's CEO. Our boss was clearly a beautiful middle-aged woman who bought us afternoon tea every day. How wonderful was that? How did she turn into a sarcastic man? I just grabbed someone at random to avoid those two jinxes. Who would have thought it was my current company's big boss? This is the most mortifying situation ever. 10. The big boss might love to throw shade, but his work ethic is out of this world. Superhuman, really. The Chiu family tried to acquire our company. In just 3 days, the big boss orchestrated a massive sell-off of Chiu Corp's stock, sending their share price plummeting to the daily limit. Only then did they realize they'd messed with the wrong guy. Lilith's father came to our office in person to apologize. The big boss only called off his campaign against the Chiu family after extracting a hefty price in this round. Our little company came out on top with a decisive victory, leaving the Chiu family utterly defeated. I heard later that the Chiu family only managed to survive this time by seeking the protection of the U Group. Hearing the name U Group made me realize something. Not long after Lilith's death, Donovan also disappeared. Later, while scrolling through entertainment news, I thought I saw Donovan's face. The report said he was a recently discovered illegitimate son of the U family, so that's how it is. The Chiu couple must have known Donovan's true identity all along. That's why they silently allowed their daughter to marry him. There's no way that snobbish Chiu couple would have ever agreed to let Lilith be with some penniless guy. The U family is not one the Chiu family could ever hope to associate with. With Donovan in the picture, the U Group might throw a few scraps the Chiu family's way, given how few heirs the U family has. So why did Lilith come to my house to kill herself in her past life? With Donovan having such a bright future, what on earth was she so hung up on? As for our company's big boss, after witnessing his decisiveness and drive, his external qualities somehow fade into the background. Don't even think about it. Those 4 words are practically branded on everyone's forehead. He wasn't the dashing, charismatic tycoon you often see. He was disciplined, and frankly, a bit stingy, insisting that I treat him to a meal. He said since I'd offered last time, I had to follow through. A person shouldn't go back on their word. Good grief, I thought the big boss was trying to flirt with me in a roundabout way, but the moment I opened the menu, I realized I was completely overthinking it. The bill came to a whole month's salary. The boss smacked his lips, muttered we're even, and made a quick exit. This painful lesson taught me, don't just invite strangers out, and definitely don't make promises lightly. With the big boss, a true heavyweight, at the helm, the company's growth skyrocketed, and our salaries rose right along with it. The tough guy renting my place asked if I'd sell the house to him. He'd really taken a liking to it. Back when I bought the house, the real estate market was in a slump. Looking at my savings, I had enough to cover the mortgage. I paid off the mortgage in one lump sum, got the deed in my name, sorted out all the paperwork, and sold the house to the tough guy at market price. He paid for the house in one lump sum. The moment I got the money, even the air tasted sweet. To be honest, even if he hadn't suggested buying it, I would have found a way to sell that house. I work in the neighboring city now, where housing prices are a bit lower. Buying a new apartment in the city outright with a full payment makes me a homeowner too. I'm just waiting for the house to be built and finished, so I can bring grandma to live with me in the city and take care of her. 11. Half a year later, Lilith showed up at the entrance to my dormitory. Amber, could you come with me somewhere? Lilith asked, her usual enthusiasm gone, her expression somewhat timid. No, I still have work to finish. I flatly refused. Flies don't go after a seamless egg. As long as I don't give her an opening, I won't get hurt. Amber, I was so good to you before, and now you're just brushing me off like this. Lilith blocked my path, her tone aggressive and confrontational. You burned down my family home. Why on earth should I be nice to you? I decided to change direction and walk away. I couldn't afford to get tangled up with her any longer. That's you. You're the one avoiding me. Ha, Lilith reached into her bag, fumbling around. What's wrong with you? I was on guard, immediately pinning her hand down inside the bag. Donovan isn't some poor kid. I just found out. After all I've done for him, he kept it from me. Damn him. Lilith's eyes were red, muttering to herself in a frenzy. He isn't, but I am. I told her the truth calmly. You are. You bought a house behind my back, and you're seeing someone behind my back. Lilith sneered. I tell you everything, and you hide everything from me. Looking at her like this, it's clear we won't be able to settle this peacefully unless we hash things out today. Lilith, how about we go sit down at a cafe? Lilith isn't acting like herself. I need to do my best to calm her down and not let her spiral further. You go ahead. I'll follow you. Lilith glared at me. Me go first? No way I'm going first. What if you stab me in the back? I'd be done for. We were locked in a standoff. The dorm's security guard, noticing something was off, walked over with his baton. What's going on here? You're not from our company, young lady. Get out of here, now, or I'll have to make you leave. As he spoke, the old guard raised his baton, ready to swing it at Lilith. Lilith looked at the fierce-faced old man, feeling deeply resentful. Don't worry, as long as I'm alive, I'll come for you. Lilith delivered her threat and left. Lilith showing up out of the blue is definitely fishy. Honestly, I can't guarantee she won't hurt me in this Lifetime, I nodded to thank the old man for his help, but he just shook his head. That young lady has been waiting here for you for an hour. Earlier, I saw her take a handkerchief out of her bag, then a small knife. I have no idea what she was planning. You really can't figure out young people these days. The old man's words sent a chill down my spine. I knew Lilith coming to see me meant trouble. Thank goodness the old man stepped in when he did. I saw the news about the Chiu family villa spontaneously catching fire on the local trending feed. Firefighters arrived quickly and rescued 2 unconscious people from the house. In this life, Lilith set fire to her own family's villa and dragged Donovan into the blaze with her. Fortunately, they were both rescued. After a lifetime of cycles, Lilith still chose to obliterate everything with fire, including herself. Perhaps she truly has an inescapable bond with flames. According to the news, the villa's nanny called the fire department the moment the Chiu family villa caught fire, which is what saved the lives of the 2 people inside. The villa burned down on the very night Lilith came looking for me. Does that mean she intended to lure me there to die in the fire with her? Lilith's actions are beyond the comprehension of any sane person. She was knocked unconscious by knockout gas and, upon waking, was forcibly committed to a psychiatric hospital by the Yu family. Donovan was drugged and tied up by Lilith in the villa's main hall, sustaining rather serious injuries. The Yu family has few heirs in this generation, so they place great importance on this recently discovered illegitimate son. By treating Donovan like that, she was essentially poking a tiger in its den, a sure path to her own doom. If the fire engine hadn't arrived in time, Donovan would have been a goner. Half a month later, Donovan woke up, and to my surprise, the first person he asked to see was me. The Yu family sent 4 bodyguards to pick me up. Accompanying me were our company's big boss and his personal secretary. It's not that the boss and I have some ambiguous relationship. He was purely there for the on-site drama. Aside from that one time he made me treat him to a meal, we've had zero personal interaction. In the VIP private ward of the Yu family private hospital, Donovan was still on oxygen. Seeing me walk in with a bouquet of sunflowers, he gestured to the nurse beside him to raise the bed, trying to sit up as much as possible to talk to me. Amber, I wrote you a love letter during our freshman year. You never got it, did you? Donovan really went for it, dropping a bombshell right away, but I never received it. I shook my head honestly. He sneered with a sickly pallor on his face. I knew it. You couldn't have received it. Lilith destroyed it. Under my astonished gaze, Donovan revealed many things I hadn't known. Lilith was never bullied at all. She just had those people act out a scene with her. After it happened a few times, of course I would step in to save the fragile, helpless her. She was the chosen hunter, and I, her first prey. Coming from a rural background with no foundation, her strong-willed yet lonely nature would make her lose herself in this false affection, a pleasure she believed was hers alone. In college, Donovan caught her eye and became her second target. Unfortunately for her, Donovan's affections were directed at me. She told Donovan I was a vain woman, urging him to abandon me and choose her instead. Donning the sheep's skin and presenting herself as prey, Lilith played the part of the vulnerable in a world teeming with hunters. The weak and hunted have a way of making people lose themselves. Take Donovan and Lilith. He truly believed at first that her love for him was unconditional, that no matter how he humiliated her, she would never leave. Donovan gradually fell for Lilith, reveling in the machismo she fostered in him and losing sight of his true self. However, during those 6 months of confinement, Lilith secretly contacted a private investigator and uncovered a great many things. Her prey was actually growing stronger. I secretly bought an apartment, something she would never allow. She couldn't stand the thought of her prey surpassing her. As for Donovan, there was no need for a private investigator. The Yu family immediately revealed his identity to the public. A simple online search would tell you everything. Lilith had been planning for a long time to destroy all her prey. That day, she finally managed to escape the surveillance of the Chiu family. First, she used a facade of vulnerability to break through Donovan's defenses, getting him to drink the juice laced with sleeping pills. And as for me, because the security guard stopped her, she wasn't able to bring me back to the villa. The Chiu family kept a tight watch on her, and she couldn't afford to waste any more time with me, so she went back and set the villa on fire, wanting to be buried in the flames with Donovan, to be together for all eternity. Her way of thinking is utterly incomprehensible to a normal person. Donovan also told me that Lilith had previously mentioned to him that my family needed $300,000. He transferred the money from a secondary account, but I never accepted it. The mystery is finally solved. That inexplicable $300,000 was from Donovan after all. Thank you. I placed the sunflowers the big boss bought into the vase in the hospital room, discreetly removed the listening device hidden among the flowers, and prepared to leave. Do I have Another chance to win you back. Donovan seemed to put every ounce of his strength into asking that question. No, let's just go our separate ways and be well. With that, I left the hospital room and sat on a chair in the corridor, lost in thought. I've had very little direct contact with Donovan. Everything I know about him, good or bad, came from Lilith. In a past life, he and Lilith were in love, whatever her motives might have been. She loved him deeply back then and couldn't bear to see him hurt. His affection for me felt too insubstantial. In that past life, Donovan returned to the Yu family and very quickly got engaged to, and then married, a major celebrity. That's what that tabloid news story was about. As long as Lilith is alive in this lifetime, and as long as the Yu group exists, she will never leave that hospital. Donovan and Lilith are legally married. The Chiu family would never consent to a divorce, and the law wouldn't permit it either. Forget about marrying a big star in this life. The law won't recognize any woman he's involved with. I didn't go to see Lilith, and I won't go to see her again. From now on, she's just an insignificant passerby in my life. In this life, she has received the punishment she deserved. The mysteries of the past life have all been resolved. The years are peaceful now, and we each go our own way in peace. The big boss stormed out of the adjacent hospital room with his secretary in tow, his face like thunder, a Bluetooth earpiece still dangling from his ear. Ms. Amber, could you please stop yanking on that thing? Don't you realize how deafening it is in my ear? Looking at the bug, nearly crushed out of shape in my hand, I gave him a smile and a wave before slamming it hard onto the floor. The boss clapped his hands over his ears and let out a distorted, screeching yelp. Amber, you just wait. I strode out of the hospital. Only a fool would stick around to get beaten up. Finally got my revenge for that meal that cost a month's salary. I feel fantastic. 13. After the house was renovated, I brought my grandmother over from the countryside. Holding my grandmother's rough yet warm hands brought me such a deep sense of peace. I took Grandma to the hospital for a full checkup. It was mostly common ailments for her age. She got some traditional Chinese medicine and was told to go home and rest up properly. As for what's going on with my parents, I heard about it from an old classmate back in my hometown. Children who are spoiled rotten often turn out badly. My younger brother is a prime example, getting into fights, drinking, gambling. In less than 2 years, he blew through all the compensation money and racked up $1 million in gambling debts. My parents couldn't bring themselves to discipline him. They went back to our hometown to ask around about where I was, only to be chased out of the village with a broom by my classmates' parents. They never paid me any attention growing up. I still remember when I was 5, right? After my mom found out she was pregnant with my brother, she tossed me a plum she didn't want to eat. The sweet and sour taste of that plum filled my mouth. It was the first time she'd ever given me a snack on her own, and it was also the last. After my younger brother was born, they left to work as migrant laborers and never came back. Grandma and I changed all our contact information, so they had no way of reaching us. The debts my brother racked up, they can spend the rest of their lives paying them off. Let them get a taste of that burden. The Chiu family is clinging to Donovan for dear life. He's their last hope for a comeback. After Donovan returned home from the hospital, it was as if he had become a different person. He went after the Chiu family with a vengeance, ultimately forcing Mr. and Mrs. Chiu to flee the country over tax evasion. They were never heard from again. Lilith died one night, beaten to death by a group of patients. By the time the orderly found her, her body was already cold. Donovan came to see me, holding a letter written by Lilith. In the letter, she threatened me, saying that if she ever got out, she would show me no mercy this time. It's a shame she'll never get out. He even asked me if there was still a chance for us to be together. With Lilith gone, he's single now. I politely declined, and I haven't been in touch with him since. In 2 years, I had become the head of planning at the company. Our lovely boss was very good to us. On the days the big boss was away, she would buy us afternoon tea. My boss is the big boss's mother, his biological mother. She's trying to recruit me to be her daughter-in-law. That big boss and his motor mouth. I'll have to think about it. I'm genuinely afraid his constant chatter will be the death of me this time around. I'm steering clear of dangerous lunatics and living a peaceful, comfortable life. I'm grateful to heaven for giving me a second chance. The end. Story 2. My sister-in-law is always trying to get things for nothing, picking up every little thing she can get her hands on. On minor New Year's Eve, she came home beaming, hauling a bag of what looked like white sesame seeds. I immediately recognized they were tapeworm eggs and quickly warned her not to eat them, but she just shoved me to the ground. What the hell do you know? These are premium white sesame seeds. I went ahead and used these white sesame seeds to make a huge platter of sesame cakes for the whole family. I quickly warned everyone not to eat them, but my sister-in-law accused me of embarrassing her in front of others. My brother then forced the entire platter of cakes into my mouth, choking me to death. To make matters worse, my beloved nephew, whom I'd always doted on, backed up his mother's false testimony, and so, I met my end on little New Year's Eve. When I opened my eyes again, I saw my sister-in-law opening that bag of white sesame seeds. This time around, I decided to let tapeworms take root and thrive in their bellies. My sister-in-law returned from her supply run. She was gleefully opening a bag of white sesame seeds labeled for experimental use only that she'd carried back. Seeing me standing there like an idiot, she immediately gave me a sharp kick. You're hopeless, grown up and still so clueless. Can't you see I'm busy? Go get a basin. No. The kick sent me tumbling to the floor, and the jolt of pain snapped me out of my daze. I realized I had been reborn in my past life. My sister-in-law went out shopping and happened to see a bag of white sesame seeds discarded outside a laboratory. She immediately rushed home with it, convinced that anything lab-grade had to be premium. I recognized at a glance that they were tapeworm eggs and urgently warned her not to eat them. One, my sister-in-law shoved me to the ground, her eyes blazing with fury. You don't know what you're talking about. That's premium white sesame. She then used the entire bag to make a huge batch of sesame flatbread, and for the first time ever, invited all our relatives over to enjoy it. Worried they might get sick, I quickly intervened and revealed they were actually tapeworm eggs. The relatives all laughed at my sister-in-law for not knowing the difference between sesame seeds and parasite eggs. My sister-in-law felt I'd humiliated her, so she made my brother shove an entire platter of flatbread into my mouth, choking me to death. To make matters worse, my beloved nephew, the one I'd always doted on, gave false testimony for his mother, and so I met my end on that little New Year's Eve. Remembering my previous life, I scrambled up and grabbed a clean metal basin, one my sister-in-law had pinched from the proctology hospital. I found a bag of rice with minimal spider webs and scooped some flour, the very flour she'd scavenged after camping outside the grain shop for 3 days. Everything she brought home was either secondhand or expired items others had discarded, but my sister-in-law didn't mind. She'd often just give them a quick wash and reuse them. I handed the bag of flour to my sister-in-law. With practiced ease, she poured the white sesame seeds into the basin. I could clearly see some had already hatched and were starting to squirm, as if she hadn't noticed a thing. My sister-in-law kept pouring bowl after bowl of what she called white sesame seeds. The bowl in her hand was snatched from Coco downstairs, the big white dog that had bitten so many people. Watching those tapeworms still wriggling in the basin, I felt my stomach turn with disgust. Afraid my sister-in-law would notice, I quickly poured a large bowl of water into the mixture and started kneading the dough, fighting back the nausea. Countless insect eggs mixed with squirming larvae were all kneaded into the expired flour by me. Seeing how proactive I was this time, my sister-in-law smiled with satisfaction and, for the first time ever, retrieved some long-hoarded moldy dried bean curd sticks from her treasure chest. I poured in some hot water and soaked them all at once. Then I rummaged through the clutter and dug out an ancient slab of cured meat, its age unknown, covered in clearly visible white mold, and scrubbed it with a bit of laundry detergent. She kept talking while scrubbing. You're in for a treat, you little brat. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll make you some fried cured pork with dried bean curd sticks. I rolled my eyes inwardly. She says she's making it for me, but in the end, won't she just hog it all and not let me have a single bite? They say an elder brother is like a father, and an elder sister-in-law is like a mother. After our parents passed away, I went to live with my brother and his wife. Every time my sister-in-law came home with scavenged items, she'd complain that having an extra mouth to feed was stretching the family budget too thin. Her words always filled me with such shame that I'd give her most of my part-time earnings, hoping to make life easier for my brother's household. It wasn't until after I died that I discovered the truth. They only kept me because my education benefactor's sole condition was providing me shelter. Clenching my jaw against the rising bitterness, I forced out the words, "Thank you, sister-in-law." My sister-in-law snorted coldly, then scooped a large ladle of recycled oil from the bucket on the floor. This recycled oil was skimmed from restaurant waste, the flavorful residue left after cooking various dishes. The moment it hit the hot wok, an intense aroma instantly filled the air. She always said this was her secret to making food taste incredible. With my help, she quickly finished preparing the sesame flatbreads. My sister-in-law's mother came back from her stroll. Seeing how much oil my sister-in-law was using to make pancakes, she poked her head in frustration. How did I end up with such a wasteful daughter? Use less oil for the rest. Put the ones I made earlier in the fridge for your dad. Then she shot me another fierce glare. And you, freeloader, don't you dare sneak a bite, or I'll wallop you. My sister-in-law kept making pancakes with a hint of grievance, while I, under her watchful eye, stirred the sesame pancakes in the fridge too. The rest of the pancakes were done in no time. Her mother started handing out the pancakes to the family. Since my brother was the man of the house, he got 4, her precious grandson got 3, she took 3 for herself. When it was my sister-in-law's and my turn, only 2 were left. I quickly waved my hand and said, "No." need to give me any, and my sister-in-law worked hard cooking the meal, so they should all go to her, otherwise, my sister-in-law will have to keep cooking if she's still hungry. That's just too much work for her. She never intended to let me have any in the first place. With a disdainful snort, she gave all the leftovers to my sister-in-law, then she shot me a look of utter disgust and said, "Anyone who knows you would think you're being considerate of your sister-in-law, but those who don't would assume we're starving you. There's some laba congee in the fridge, go have that instead." As I opened the refrigerator, a foul, rotting odor immediately wafted out. There was indeed laba porridge in the fridge, but it was all expired stuff that my sister-in-law had picked up from outside the supermarket during the previous laba festival, discarded items she'd salvaged. It was instant laba porridge to begin with, and since it was already expired, a thick layer of green mold had grown on it. After all this time, in my previous life, I often quietly threw away moldy items from the fridge, worried that my young nephew might accidentally eat them, but my sister-in-law caught me in the act. She whipped me across the mouth with a shoe sole so hard that my lips swelled up like a mountain. I dropped to my knees, crying and begging for forgiveness. Only then did she reluctantly let me off, warning me never to open the fridge again without her permission. In my past life, I would have thrown out this moldy laba porridge without a second thought. But this time, I just glanced at my sister-in-law's mother, who has a sensitive stomach. Let her have it. I searched high and low but couldn't find anything edible, so I poured myself a glass of water to stave off the hunger. When my sister-in-law saw I hadn't taken any laba porridge, she immediately looked displeased. "What's this supposed to mean? You'd rather have sesame pancakes and don't care for laba porridge, is that it?" I quickly explained, No, it's just that Auntie has a sensitive stomach and often eats porridge to soothe it. If I had some, there'd be one less bowl for her, and that wouldn't be right at all." My sister-in-law was clearly fuming but couldn't show it, while her mother looked absolutely delighted. She even picked up a piece of cured meat the size of a fingernail and offered it to me. Before I could even decline, my little nephew started throwing a fit, crying, "Don't give it to her, don't give it to her. I want the meat, all the meat is mine." She immediately stuffed that piece of meat right into my nephew's mouth. All right, we won't give it to her. It's all for my precious grandson to eat." My little nephew kept chanting smugly with greasy lips, "No snacks for Auntie, no snacks for Auntie. Auntie's a freeloader." The little rascal giggled while saying this, and my sister-in-law chimed in right along with him. In my past life, I always thought my sister-in-law had influenced him to talk like that. I'd even spent nearly all my part-time earnings on snacks for him. Well, this time around, I'm not wasting a single penny on him. Soon enough, my sister-in-law's father returned with a crowd of relatives, and she eagerly brought out the previously made pancakes from the fridge, presenting them like treasures on the table. The relatives couldn't stop praising how delicious they were after tasting them. "Maeve's pancakes are just so tasty, and they even have a meaty flavor to them." I sneered inwardly. Of course they'd have a meaty taste. They were fried in gutter oil and probably crawling with tapeworm eggs. While they were chatting in the living room after dinner, I quietly stole the documents, hid them, and then immediately clutched my stomach with a pained expression. "Sis, my stomach hurts. I need to use the bathroom." My sister-in-law looked thoroughly displeased. "3. Every time there's work to be done, you suddenly have a stomachache. I think you're just looking for excuses to slack off. Go use the public restroom across the street, and while you're at it, bring back some toilet paper." Without waiting for my response, they shoved me out the door and kept insisting that I must bring back toilet paper, or else they'd beat me to death. Pretending to have a stomachache, I went downstairs and hurried into the stairwell of the building opposite ours. I found the telescope hidden by the local peeping Tom and aimed it toward my home. In my past life, that peeping Tom spied on me several times. Terrified, I told my sister-in-law, but she just said, "Who'd want to look at your twig-like figure? You're just desperate for male attention, making things up in your head." Never thought that same voyeur would actually help me out now. Through the binoculars, I saw my sister-in-law's father lying on the couch, clutching his stomach with a pained expression. My little nephew is still young, and after eating so much of that old cured meat that had been washed with laundry detergent, he's already started vomiting and having diarrhea. The relatives didn't eat much of the old cured meat, but they still looked pale and were pacing restlessly around the room. My sister-in-law's mother didn't eat that much either, but she's elderly, and she was rolling around on the floor clutching her stomach. My sister-in-law was afraid her mother would scold her if she didn't eat the old cured meat, so she ended up being the one in the best condition in the room. When everyone in the family started having stomachaches one After another, she panicked and paced anxiously around the living room. She pulled out her phone, probably to call an ambulance, but her mom immediately rushed out, even without hearing the words. I knew exactly what she was saying. You reckless spender, an ambulance ride costs hundreds, and with so many people, think of the expense. After being scolded by her mom, my sister-in-law flusteredly brought out a first aid kit. She found the first aid kit abandoned at a neighbor's doorstep. The neighbors were never around, and the medicine inside had long expired, becoming damp and clumped together. My sister-in-law came up with a clever solution. She crushed all the tablets and mixed them with water to make a liquid concoction. Her reasoning was simple: however you take medicine, it all dissolves in your stomach anyway. As long as it still works, that's what matters. After administering the liquid mixture to the adults, she hesitated when it was my little nephew's turn. The next second, my phone started ringing. Clara, are you back yet? Your nephew has been vomiting and having diarrhea. All the medicine in the first aid kit is expired and damp. I remember you said expired medicine shouldn't be taken. Your aunt and uncle insist on giving your nephew the expired medicine, and they won't listen to me. You need to come back and talk some sense into them. I let out a cold snort. This was just like my sister-in-law, always calling me an outsider while simultaneously pushing me out as a shield to deal with her family. The more my sister-in-law spoke, the more my resentment festered inside. I did speak up in my past life, and what good did it do? Every single time, the whole family would gang up on me. Even my own brother took their side. When I choked to death in my previous life, my brother showed no remorse. Instead, he saw my death as a way to save them a fortune. He even worried that my death would cause my sponsor to withdraw funding even after the truth came out. My nephew lied to the police, claiming I'd greedily eaten all those sesame cakes and choked to death. My resentment was so strong that I lingered around them, watching their happy family life as if I'd never existed. At that thought, I took a sharp breath and was about to refuse, but then my sister-in-law threatened me over the phone. Why aren't you saying anything? Are you hiding outside and not coming back? If you don't come back soon, I'll use the money that person sent to pay for your nephew's medical treatment. It dawned on me then that the kind person had transferred the money to my sister-in-law's card. I'd completely forgotten about that earlier and hadn't brought the bank card with me at all. I immediately replied, Sis, I'm almost home. Just wait for me a little longer. Of course I wasn't going back so soon. I leisurely crossed the street to grab a huge wad of toilet paper before heading home. The moment I stepped inside, I found the relatives had already left. My sister-in-law immediately whispered to me, telling me to call 120 right away. Pretending not to hear her clearly, I responded loudly, what did you say, sis? Call 120. Panicking, my sister-in-law rushed over and clamped her hand over my mouth, but her mother had already heard. Rolling on the bed while clutching her stomach, she yelled furiously, You reckless spender, an ambulance ride costs hundreds, with so many of us. Just imagine the bill. Send Clara to get the neighbors across the street. Have them drive us to the hospital in their car. Unbelievable. My brother has a car, but he refused to drive them to the hospital. What is this? A village? Do they think neighbors will come running just because they call out? When our parents were alive, we actually had a good relationship with the neighbors, but after our parents passed away and their family moved in, my sister-in-law started casually taking the neighbors' trash. Her mother would pickle cabbage and ferment soybean paste right in the building hallway, with cardboard boxes and plastic bottles she collected scattered everywhere. The whole building reeked because of this. When neighbors came to confront them, both the sister-in-law and her mother would curse and drive them away. The neighbors across the hall suffered the most. While their family did own a car, there was no way they would help out. Of course I wasn't going to blurt out that they wouldn't help, so I just casually strolled over to the opposite side. He deliberately left the door open so everyone inside could hear, putting on an urgent act for, Wendy, help, my whole family is sick, can you drive us to the hospital? Of course Wendy wanted no part of it, shouting from inside, serves you right, not my problem. I slammed the door shut and couldn't be bothered to search upstairs or downstairs for anyone, so I hurried back to my room pretending to be in a panic. Sis, don't waste any more time, let my brother drive. My sister-in-law looked pained and refused to call for my brother, feigning urgency. I quickly went to the bedroom to find my brother. To my horror, my brother was lying unconscious on the bed, foaming at the mouth. My little nephew was vomiting and having diarrhea, with his head practically stuck in the toilet bowl. My sister-in-law's mother was in the room, barely breathing, more gasping for air than actually breathing out. Her father was even worse, convulsing on the couch with a foul smell coming from his pants. I yelled urgently, Call an ambulance, sis, my brother's foaming at the mouth. My Sister-in-law, still trying to save money, kept urging me to find someone else instead, but as soon as I opened the door, 2 security guards were standing there. They took one look at the awful scene inside and immediately pulled out their phones to call an ambulance. From inside, my sister-in-law's mother weakly protested, "Call the police, not an ambulance. Police are free, but ambulances cost money." The security guard was speechless. Still trying to save money, with your whole family in this state? It's definitely food poisoning. If it weren't for the neighbor across the hall calling to tell us, we'd have no idea such a serious incident had occurred. I gave a faint smile. The neighbor across the hall, that's the peeping Tom. When my sister-in-law heard it was food poisoning, she was so terrified her limbs went weak, and she didn't even bother to stop the security guard anymore. At the hospital, everyone except my sister-in-law and I was rushed into the emergency room soon after. A nurse came out holding a sample of vomit and asked what everyone had eaten. My sister-in-law turned pale with fear and said, "Since it's minor New Year, we had some sesame flatbread and stir-fried cured pork with dried bean curd sticks." The nurse asked with a grave expression, "Where did you eat it?" My sister-in-law stammered, "I made it at home myself." The nurse was so frustrated by her evasiveness that she nearly lost her temper. "Please tell us the truth. All the patients are suffering from food poisoning. Their stomachs are full of tapeworm eggs. We suspect someone has deliberately contaminated the food." My sister-in-law immediately became flustered. "How could that be? It was our own home-cured bacon. Sure, it had a bit of mold, but I washed it thoroughly with laundry detergent. The dried tofu sticks were good quality ones that someone had bought. I just picked them up. The flour was premium flour on clearance at the supermarket. Even the sesame seeds on top were high-grade lab-grade white sesame." Upon hearing this, the nurse flew into a rage. "How could you be so clueless? You can't eat moldy cured meat, and washing it with laundry detergent. Since when do labs keep specialty white sesame seeds?" He then flashed a look of utter helplessness before rushing in to inform the doctor about the cause of poisoning. My sister-in-law's father was wheeled out shortly after, his body covered with a white sheet. His age really took a toll. Just a few pieces of that cured meat were enough to cause severe poisoning. When my sister-in-law saw her father had died, she immediately threw herself on him, wailing uncontrollably. Shortly after, her mother came out. Since she was used to eating spoiled food, she was basically fine after induced vomiting. My brother had his stomach pumped and regained consciousness. My little nephew had it the worst, being so young and having eaten so much. He was still unconscious. The doctor said that because my little nephew ate too much and suffered prolonged oxygen deprivation to the brain, even if he wakes up, he'll most likely be left with permanent cognitive impairment. My sister-in-law collapsed to the floor, muttering to herself, "Doctors always exaggerate to scare people. It's just poor washing. Calling it food poisoning and tapeworms, they're just trying to scam us out of money. It's clearly premium white sesame seeds. I tell you, they're just setting us up." Even at this point, my sister-in-law still refused to believed that she was the one who caused the whole family's food poisoning and hospitalization, insisting they were sesame seeds, not tapeworm eggs. The moment my sister-in-law's mother learned that her husband had died from food poisoning, she flew into a rage, leaped out of bed, and grabbed her daughter by the hair. "You good for nothing. You knew those things weren't clean, yet you didn't even bother to wash them properly. Now you've gone and killed your own father. I'll beat you to death. I'll beat you to death." Having been beaten by her mother since childhood, my sister-in-law never dared to fight back. She just endured the blows until a nurse intervened and pulled them apart, allowing her to escape. Too angry to confront her mother, she turned around and slapped me twice. "This is all your fault. If you weren't freeloading at home, I wouldn't have to scrimp and save like this. I bet you knew it was inedible but kept quiet on purpose, just to land us all in the hospital." I covered my stinging cheek and hid pitifully behind the nurse. "How would I know, sis? You're the one who said it was premium white sesame seeds. You even claimed the cured meat was safe to eat after just rinsing it off. Weren't you the one who—" My sister-in-law rushed over and clamped her hand over my mouth, terrified I'd reveal where she'd really gotten those things. I had a sinking feeling those tapeworm eggs didn't just happen to fall into her lap. After my nephew woke up, he still looked terrible, torn between the hospital expenses and concern for her son. My sister-in-law started hinting, then outright pressuring, me to hand over my college fund. I said to my brother with a pitiful look on my face, "Sis, it's not that I don't want to give it to you. If my benefactor finds out, they'll stop supporting me." My brother's face immediately darkened. "They often dip into my education fund, and if our sponsor were to find out, they'd most likely cut off the financial support." He snapped back immediately, "What's the point of eyeing Clara's education Fund. It's not like Clara was the one who got us to the hospital. My sister-in-law immediately recalled what the security guard said about someone from the building across the street calling them, and then she remembered that peeping Tom, a knowing look spreading across her face. My little nephew stayed at the hospital under my brother's care, while my sister-in-law took her mother and me back home to arrange her father-in-law's funeral. After everything was over, everyone stayed at home to handle the remaining tasks. It was supposed to be my sister-in-law's turn to cook a meal for everyone, but the relatives had all heard that the family's hospitalization was caused by her using contaminated ingredients, so no one dared to eat it. To salvage her reputation, my sister-in-law gave each relative a generous portion of premium white sesame seeds. Despite the relatives' reactions, she looked genuinely pained. After all, she'd gone through great effort to haul these back herself. I couldn't bear the thought of our relatives consuming tapeworm eggs, so I decided to warn them. Little did I know, the relatives were already in the living room, eagerly offering advice to my sister-in-law's mother. Honestly, Clara's not getting any younger. What's a girl doing with all that schooling anyway? Exactly, that butcher at the market just lost his wife. If Clara married him, we'd get free meat now and then. Perfect arrangement. 5. Don't worry about her refusing, we'll just wait until she's asleep and make it a done deal. Their words sent chills down my spine. I never imagined they'd stoop this low. I know the butcher from the market, a man in his 40s who's been married twice. They say he was abusive, that both wives died from his torment. Others claim he's cursed, that he brought misfortune upon both women, regardless of how they died. These relatives had no intention of letting me continue my education. I let out a cold laugh and quietly slipped away. My mind was already racing. Plotting my escape, I deliberately struck up a conversation with my sister-in-law. Don't be upset, sis, your son is still in the hospital. She was about to scold me when she suddenly remembered she had to confront the peeping Tom across the street. She shot me a dirty look and stormed out. Seizing the opportunity, I quickly found the sponsor's contact information in her room and explained the situation to him. The sponsor immediately stated they would no longer deposit the funds into my sister-in-law's account, and would instead transfer the money directly to my card from now on. After hanging up, I glanced at the predators outside, quietly gathered my belongings, and prepared to escape this household. Just as I was about to step out with my things, my sister-in-law's mother sharply called out to stop me. Where do you think you're going? I pretended to be calm. My brother is still unwell, and he's exhausted from taking care of my little nephew at the hospital. I'll go look after my nephew instead. My sister-in-law's mother snorted coldly. Then what are you waiting for? All that food you've eaten has gone to waste. You're utterly useless. I immediately fled the house as if running for my life. I went straight to the train station and bought a ticket back to school. I blocked all my relatives' contact information. After a few peaceful months had passed, to my surprise, they actually tracked me down to my school. From a distance, I could see my sister-in-law's mother holding up a banner, surrounded by classmates and teachers. It's all Clara's fault. My daughter scrimped and saved just to put her through school. She wouldn't even throw out spoiled food, which landed the whole family in the hospital. She knew it was inedible but didn't tell my daughter, just avoided eating it herself. Are you her classmates or teachers? Stay away from someone like her. She'll be the death of you. They camped outside my school for days. Classmates kept pointing fingers at me, and eventually the academic advisor caved under pressure and called me in for a talk. I laid everything out on the table. Furious, the advisor called the police and also explained the situation to the entire school, students and teachers alike. I later found out that my sister-in-law had confronted the peeping Tom to demand money. Not only did he deny everything, but he got so scared he had an epileptic seizure and ended up in the hospital. My brother had no choice but to pay a hefty sum in compensation. After my nephew suffered brain damage from oxygen deprivation, he was left with cognitive impairments. The school expelled him, so now my sister-in-law has to care for him at home. When relatives received what appeared to be white sesame seeds from my sister-in-law, someone recognized them as tapeworm eggs. Thinking she was trying to poison them, they called the police and had her arrested. It turned out she wasn't arrested for attempted poisoning, but for stealing specialized tapeworm eggs from a laboratory. 6. To bail out my sister-in-law, my brother tried to use my college fund, only to discover I'd already switched the payment card to my own name. My sister-in-law's mother came looking for me at my school gate with a group of people. After the police chased them away, the old woman was furious and demanded that my brother sell the house to bail out his wife. But my brother is selfish to the core. With his wife in jail and his son mentally impaired, he immediately filed for divorce. Years later, someone grabbed my pant leg on the street. I looked down and saw it was my sister-in-law, emaciated, all skin and bones, but with a swollen belly. Clara, you knew perfectly well those were tapeworm eggs. Why didn't you tell me? But you're the one who told me about them before. The moment she said that, I realized my sister-in-law had been reborn too. I gave a faint smile and gently pulled my leg back with a bit more force. I warned you, and look how you treated Me in return, my sister-in-law's eyes instantly reddened as she stared daggers at me, seeming to want to say more, but the next second she vomited a writhing mass of worms all over the floor. When she ate those 2 sesame pancakes back then, the doctor recommended stomach pumping, but she refused to spend the money and didn't go through with it. Now those tapeworms have hatched and matured inside her, completely infesting her intestines and abdominal cavity. Maybe someday my sister-in-law will regret cutting corners for small gains, or perhaps she already does, but honestly, what's that got to do with me? Story 2. In the previous life, the class beauty knew in advance that a zombie apocalypse was about to break out. She coaxed my boyfriend to use my money to stockpile supplies and turn my family's house into a safe haven. However, after the zombie outbreak, she drove my whole family out of the villa. I pleaded desperately with them to let me take shelter inside, she said triumphantly. So what if you're better than me in every way? This is the apocalypse. Who cares if you're a young lady? After I died, I was reborn to the time when she was preparing to stockpile supplies. Looking at her sneaky and petty manner, I sneered. I told my brother in the military region about the impending zombie outbreak. He immediately led people to control the village. I want to see what kind of wonderful expression she will show after all her efforts are in vain. 01. Gage, come out with me for a moment. As soon as I opened my eyes, I heard the class beauty Nova's voice, lowered to a soft whisper. Gage is my boyfriend. He turned his head and glanced at me. Seeing that I was lying on the desk, seemingly taking a nap, he hesitated for 2 seconds, then got up and followed Nova out of the classroom. At this time in the previous life, I was indeed already asleep. However, now, I sneered and crept quietly after them. The 2 of them came to a corner of the stairs. As soon as they stood still, Nova couldn't wait to say, Gage, I picked up a novel last night. The heroine in it is actually Maya. The novel says that half a month later, there will be a zombie crisis in our world, and we will all die at Maya's hands. Gage was taken aback for a moment, then shook his head and said, Nova, did you have a nightmare? Of course not. Afraid that Gage wouldn't believe her, she showed him the novel and, while flipping through it, said eagerly, Look, everything written in the novel has come true. After reading it, Gage was silent for a long time. So what should we do? Haven't you read any apocalypse novels? Since we know it in advance, of course we should hurry up and stockpile supplies and build a safe house. But we're just students. Where can we get so much money? Nova gave him a meaningful glance. If I remember correctly, didn't Maya give you a supplementary card of hers? She's the daughter of a conglomerate and must have an endless amount of money. I also screened it last night. The villa of Maya's family is far from the urban area, and the security system is excellent, which is very suitable to be used as a safe house. You find a way to let the 2 of us live in it when the apocalypse breaks out. After hearing this, Gage hesitated and said, Shouldn't we tell her? And it's not very good to embezzle her money and use her villa, right? Nova crossed her arms, a trace of disdain flashed in her eyes, but her tone became a bit gentler. Gage, I know you like me, and you're with Maya just because she's rich. It must be very hard to serve such a young lady, right? Wouldn't it be great for us to live in the villa together and have a romantic world for 2 after the apocalypse breaks out? Perhaps her words were too attractive. Gage gradually blushed, and after a moment, he nodded firmly. 02. After the 2 left, I stood in the corner and pondered for a long time. In the previous life, within the next half-month, Gage successively swiped 1.6 million yuan from the supplementary card I gave him. When I asked him about it, he promised to pay it back the next month. Our family is wealthy, and my parents give me pocket money of more than 2 million yuan every month, so I didn't take it seriously. Who would have thought that he and Nova already knew about the impending zombie outbreak? They secretly stockpiled supplies while swiping my card, and on the day before the apocalypse broke out, they moved into my family's villa on the pretext of tutoring. They also put sleeping pills in the drinking water we drank. When my family and I woke up, we had already been thrown out of the villa, and on the road outside, a large wave of zombies was rushing towards us. My family and I pleaded desperately with them to let us take shelter inside. However, Nova laughed wildly behind the reinforced door. Maya, don't you think you're so noble, thinking that you're rich and good at studying, and how amazing you are? But unfortunately, it's the apocalypse now. Who cares if you're a young lady? I pleaded with Gage on the basis of our past relationship, but he looked at me with disgust and said coldly, I've had enough of you for a long time. If it wasn't for the money, who would be willing to serve a young lady like you? But unfortunately, it's the apocalypse now. You and your stinky money have no value anymore. Their words seemed to be still vivid in my mind. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, took out my phone from my school uniform, and decisively froze the supplementary card I had given Gage before. Then, I called my brother who served in The military region. Brother, can you come home this weekend? I have something important to tell you. In the previous life, it was not until the virus broke out large area in trains, airplanes, high-speed rails, and other places that the armed forces were dispatched, but by then, it was already too late. My brother is a major general in the military region. As long as I tell him about this in advance, the armed forces will control the village. In this life, the zombie crisis will definitely not. Breakout 03. I returned to the classroom, and the lunch break just ended. When Gage saw me, he greeted me nervously and obsequiously. Maya, where have you been? I've been looking for you everywhere. As soon as I came back, I glanced at him expressionlessly. The young man has a clear and clean appearance, but there is an irresistible calculation in his eyes. How could I not have noticed it in the previous life? I sneered. Bypassed him, returned to my seat, took out my English book, and started reciting words, and Gage, who was ignored by me, was stunned for a moment. He originally wanted to come forward and please me as before, but he was dragged away by Nova. She said in a voice that she thought was quiet, "Why are you still flattering her? Don't forget what I told you. In half a month, it will be her turn to kneel and beg you." Gage immediately understood. When he looked at me again, his eyes became a bit gloomy. Nova said again, "Well, she hasn't found out yet. Let's go out and stockpile supplies quickly." Gage looked at the time. Now, but class is about to start soon. There's only half a month left until the end of the world. What's the point of going to class? Let's go quickly. After saying that, the two of them left the classroom in a hurry. 10 minutes later, the English teacher came in wearing high heels. She immediately noticed the absent Gage and Nova. Where are they to? I don't know. They were still here just now. They said a few words and then ran away. Maybe they had something urgent. The English teacher shook her head. There are only 2 months left until the college entrance examination. No matter how important the matter is, can it be more important than the college entrance examination? Forget it. Don't waste time. Let's start the class first. Nova and Gage usually have good academic performance. Nova has always been the second in the class, although her grades in all subjects are suppressed by mine. But as long as she still maintains this ranking in the next monthly exam, the quota for being recommended to Peking University is a certainty. Now that she has skipped class, it's not so certain anymore. 04. On the other hand, after skipping class, Nova and Gage immediately took a taxi to my family's villa. The villa is far from the busy city. My parents and brother only come home on weekends, and I'm at school. Therefore, there is no one in the villa at this time. Gage already knows the password. They easily entered the villa. Gage has been here several times, and this is Nova's first time. She looked at the magnificent villa, and her eyes were shining with greed. Stop looking. When we move in later, you'll have plenty of time to admire it. Come over quickly and see what we need to prepare. They opened the basement and started calling the large supermarkets around, buying a lot of supplies such as drinking water and instant food. They were busy until it was dark. When all the workers finished unloading the goods, Gage walked over to pay the bill, and his steps were unsteady. "Boss, all the goods you ordered are here. Do you want to pay in cash or pay in cash?" At this moment, he took out his bank card, feeling like he had become someone superior. This kind of pleasure was something he couldn't feel when he was humble and submissive in front of me. Gage smiled and swiped his card on the POS machine. The next second, "Sorry, this card is invalid." His smile froze instantly. He unbelievably turned the card over and swiped it again, but it was still invalid. He repeated this several times until the employee became impatient and urged him twice. Then he said with a pale face, "Sorry, there may be something wrong with the card. We'll come to your store to pay the bill tomorrow." "All right." Anyway, they had the phone number and identity information, and they weren't afraid of Gage running away. Several people nodded and left, leaving Gage and Nova with dark faces. Nova was already impatient. She crossed her arms and questioned, "What's going on? Why can't the card be swiped?" "You won't be deceived by Maya, will you?" Gage said with a pale face. "It's impossible. It could be swiped before. There should be something wrong. I'll go back to school and ask her." 05. After the evening self-study class ended, as soon as I finished packing my school bag, the classroom door was pushed open aggressively. Gage threw the bank card on my desk, and his tone was full of unhidden anger. "Maya, what's going on? Why is the supplementary card you gave me invalid?" I looked down at the card, then moved my gaze to his face. In the past, Gage was always cautious in front of me. This was the first time I saw him with such an overbearing expression. Perhaps he thought that in half a month, the status between me and him would be reversed, so he was no longer humble and flattering when facing me. It was almost the same as when he drove me out of the villa in the previous life. I picked up the card and sneered. "It's my supplementary card, and I can freeze it if I want to. Didn't you give it To me to use, I gave it to you before because you were my boyfriend. There's no need for that now. Gage's expression panicked for a moment. What do you mean by that? I rolled my eyes, stood up, and said, it means I dumped you. After saying that, I was about to leave, but Gage grabbed my arm, trying to save the situation. However, Nova couldn't stand it anymore. She stopped him and pointed at my nose and scolded, it's just a breakup. Why do you have to speak so harshly, Maya? I knew you've always looked down on Gage. Now that you're breaking up with him, you'll definitely regret it in the future. I sneered and swept a glance at her. You have time to worry about others, but you might as well worry about yourself. The head teacher already knows that you skipped class. Upon hearing this, Nova disdainfully curled her lips and sarcastically, so what if he knows? What are you gloating about? You just have a few stinky money and better academic performance than me. But wait, then you'll know that everything you're proud of now is useless. Then, even if you kneel on the ground and beg us, we won't even look at you. After saying that, she grabbed Gage's hand and left the classroom. I followed them and saw the two enter that stairwell again. Gage worriedly said, she froze my supplementary card and wants to break up with me. What should we do about the goods payment and the supplies in the villa? Nova said gloomily. I already said that Maya is not a good person. The apocalypse hasn't broken out yet, and she has already revealed her true colors. But don't worry, we'll take out a loan for the goods payment. Anyway, we don't need to pay it back after the apocalypse. As for the villa, you can find an excuse at that time. After we get in, we'll tie her up and throw her out. I originally planned to take her with us to escape, considering your past relationship with her. Since she wants to put on an act as a young lady, she'll cry in the future. Gage nodded upon hearing this. At this point, there's no other way. I hope the zombies will break out soon, otherwise my sacrifice will be too great. 06 In the following days, Nova and Gage took out online loans to pay off the previous goods payment. They also placed orders for supplies on credit in several large department stores. According to Nova, anyway, money will be useless after the apocalypse. She was just waiting for the day before the apocalypse when the supplies would be delivered to the villa. Then she would find a way to throw me out, and they could live a carefree life happily. Nova's plan was very good. Her study obviously slacked off in these few days. She slept in class, didn't do her homework, and even handed in blank papers in the exams. Her behavior finally angered the head teacher. Before school ended on the weekend, the head teacher called her into the office for a lecture. Coincidentally, I went to hand in my test paper. The head teacher took it and, after glancing at it, said to Nova, with a look of hating iron for not becoming steel, seeing that there are only 2 months left until the college entrance examination, you handed in a blank paper again. Look at Maya, she was only 2 points away from a full score. You know that there's only one quota for being recommended to Peking University. If you don't work hard, how can you strive for it? If it were before, as soon as Nova heard the words quota for being recommended, she would surely study like she was injected with chicken blood. Although she ranks second, if I give up the recommendation and go to Harvard University, this quota is likely to fall on her head. She comes from an ordinary family, and being recommended to Peking University is her most promising way out. However, no. Nova's disdainful expression before turned suddenly sharp and vicious when she heard my name. Yes, Maya is excellent and has good academic performance, but what's the use of all this? In less than half a month, I'll let you all know that no matter how high the score is or how rich someone is, it's not as good as me. The head teacher was so angry that his chest heaved violently. I think you're crazy, Nova. Call your parents next week. Nova stuck out her neck. I won't call them. Not only will my parents not come, but I won't come to school either. After saying that, she tore up the test paper and left with her head held high. When she passed by me, she raised her chin and sneered disdainfully. It's just a broken quota for being recommended. I don't care about it. I'll give it to you, but I'm afraid you have the ability to get it but not the life to study there. Let you be glorious for a few days now. In the future, I'll make you beg me like a dog. 07 After coming out of the office building, I met Gage head-on again. He had just finished playing basketball with a group of friends. When he saw me, they pointed at me and said, isn't that Maya? Did you two really break up? Hey, I have to say, although Maya has a cold personality, she's better than that Nova in every way. Gage, why are you so crazy? Gage rolled his eyes and cursed. She just has a few stinky money. After a while, she will definitely come and beg me. At that time, no amount of money will be useful. The others just thought he was bragging and laughed a few times. At this time, someone said, Gage, didn't you say you're treating us to go clubbing tonight? Do you have the money? Hey, Seth is using Maya's supplementary card. How can he not have the money? But, didn't they break up? Will Maya still gave him the money. Everyone's confused eyes fell on Gage. He suddenly felt his face burning, since the end of the world was coming soon, thinking that he could only stay in the villa in the future. Of course he wanted to seize the time to eat, drink, and have fun. He was used to spending freely by swiping my card before. For a moment, he only thought about having fun and forgot about the money. But he is just a child from an ordinary family. Where does he have the money to treat others? In a bar, when everyone saw his embarrassed look, one of them winked and said, "Otherwise, Gage, why don't you go and ask Maya for some more money?" Gage immediately widened his eyes. "How is that possible? You want me to bow my head to that bitch? Hey, a real man should be able to bend and stretch. Besides, although Maya looks cold-tempered, from the fact that she was willing to give you a supplementary card before, we can tell that she definitely loves you, as the saying goes on the internet. Where the money is, there is love. Believe me, she must still have feelings for you. Maybe if you go to her to ask for money and give her a step down, you two will get back together." Gage's heart was filled with indecision after hearing these words. He indeed preferred the gentle and submissive Nova, but this was the end of the world. He had supplies and a safe house. What was wrong with having both women by his side? Could it be that Nova, a woman, would dare to protest? Thinking of this, Gage nodded confidently. He waved at me. "Maya, come here for a moment." I was walking along while suddenly being called. It was like stepping on dog shit while walking on the street. I knew exactly what he wanted with my toes. I looked at Gage with disgust. "You want money? Impossible. Get out of here now." Gage, 08. There was a moment of silence around. The others let out meaningful laughter. Gage's face turned livid, and he said in a deep voice, "I'll give you one more chance. Maya, come here." I sneered, "If you want money to treat your brain, I'd be happy to make a charitable donation, but don't even think about anything else. Maya, don't be too excessive." Gage raised his voice and shouted angrily. Suddenly, he seemed to think of something and said to me with confidence and disdain, "Don't blame me for not reminding you. Don't think you can look down on me just because you're a young lady. You're being arrogant today. You'll regret it in a few days, as long as you listen to me now. I don't mind giving you a hand then." I smiled mockingly. "Listen to you." Gage nodded, taking it for granted. "Yes, it's just a little stinky money. Just give it to me when I ask. After a few days, your money will be useless, and then you can only rely on me." I couldn't help but laugh scornfully. "Either you have a problem with your brain, or the end of the world is coming if you can say such things," I asked teasingly. "Which do you think it is?" Gage's confident smile froze, and he shifted his eyes guiltily. "Since you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for turning my back on you in the future. Maya, let's wait and see." After saying that, he left in a huff, afraid that if he stayed for one more second, he would expose the little tricks between him and Nova. I stared at his determined back, and my expression gradually turned cold. The end of the world, in this life, it will never happen again. When I reached the school gate, I saw my brother's car at a glance. He was leaning against the car smoking. When he saw me, he extinguished the cigarette and walked towards me. "Maya, what's the urgent matter?" I grabbed his hand and said seriously, "Let's talk in the car." 09. In the car, I told my brother the location where the first batch of zombies broke out in the previous life. After hearing this, my brother looked at me in surprise, as if he was listening to a novel story. "Maya, you can't talk nonsense about such things. It's not easy to deploy the armed forces. If you don't have evidence, I'll have to take a great deal of responsibility if I rashly lead people there," I said with a serious expression. "Brother, you know my character. I never dare to do things without certainty, especially something as big as this that concerns the whole world." My brother unconsciously lit a cigarette. After smoking it, he took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay, brother promises you. I'll take the armed forces there first and then write the report." I almost burst into tears with joy. "Thank you, brother. The country and all of humanity will be grateful to you for your decision today. My brother is a major general in the military region and can deploy a lot of armed forces and weapons under his command. As long as he goes there, a small village can definitely be controlled. When the zombies appear, they will be like turtles in a jar. Once the country knows about it, it will definitely pay attention and send more armed forces and researchers. The virus will surely be controlled. There is hope for all of humanity." After entrusting this matter to my brother, I finally felt at ease and devoted myself to my study and life. There are less than 2 months left until the college entrance examination. I studied even harder. In contrast, Nova and Gage completely slacked off. They seemed to really believe in the coming of the end of the world and spent every day seizing the time to eat, drink, and have fun. In the second week, the school organized a test. Nova dropped directly from the second place in the grade to more than 400th place. Since I wanted to go to Harvard, University. I gave up the quota for being recommended to Peking University. In this way, Nova lost the quota for being recommended to Peking University. Gage was even at the bottom of the class. He originally planned to take the path of sports recruitment. As long as he maintained his cultural scores, it was no problem for him to enter the Capital University of Physical Education. However, now, going to university has also become a bubble. Looking at their grades, the head teacher was heartbroken. Nova, however, disdainfully said, "It's just Peking University." After a few days, who will care about Harvard University or Peking University? No one will live for more than 3 days. You can give this quota to whoever you want. I don't care. Time passed quickly. Soon it was the day before the zombie outbreak in the previous life. It happened to be a weekend. It was drizzling. I held my phone and paced back and forth in front of the French window, feeling very anxious. It had been a week since my brother returned to the military region, and there was still no news. Did the thing succeed or fail? Was this life going to repeat the same mistakes as the previous one? However, the supplies that Nova and Gage stockpiled were still in the underground warehouse of my house. I had already hired people to reinforce the doors and windows anyway. I had made two-handed preparations. This life wouldn't be as bad as the previous one. Just as I was thinking this, the phone rang. I picked it up and saw that it wasn't my brother. "Who is it?" "Maya, it's me." Gage's blurred voice came from the other end of the phone. Before I could speak, he continued, "Maya, I was wrong about the previous things. I've reflected on it during this period. I was ungrateful. I specially came downstairs to your house today to apologize to you. Can you come out and meet me?" I sneered. The two of them still wanted to follow the same old path as in the previous life. I said expressionlessly, "No." I was about to hang up the phone, but Gage became anxious. "I'm sincere. After all, we were in a relationship. There's no need to be so heartless, right? Don't disgust me. Goodbye, Maya. If you don't come out to meet me, I'll send your private photos to the class group." Do you believe it? My hand that was about to hang up the phone paused. I simply and neatly clicked on the phone recording. Then I continued to ask, "What private photos? I haven't even held hands with you. Where did you get my private photos?" "Huh." The current AI synthesis technology is so powerful. As long as I put your face on those women's bodies and send it to the class group, since everyone knows that we were in a relationship, they will definitely believe it. Aren't you afraid that I'll call the police? Gage seemed to be certain that he wasn't afraid of the police with the end of the world coming. He laughed and said, "You can try and see whether I send the photos faster or the police come faster." I suppressed my nausea and pretended to compromise. "Okay, then I'll come out and meet you," Gage said eagerly. "I'm at the back door of your family's villa. Hurry up." After hanging up the phone, I called the police station and sent them the recording, saying that I was being threatened and was likely to be in danger, and asked them to come and rescue me. Then, I refused the security guard's offer to accompany me, took a stun gun for self-defense, and walked towards the back door alone. Since I was going to act, it had to be realistic. 11. I went out from the back door. Gage and Nova were standing outside. Seeing this, I frowned and asked, "Weren't you here to apologize? Why is she here too?" As soon as I finished speaking, Nova sneered, "Maya, you're really used to being a young lady. You really think that everyone has to coax you. Apologize. Gage will never apologize to you in his life." I asked expressionlessly, "Then what do you want me for by calling me out?" Nova took out a dagger from her bag and looked at me viciously. "Your life as a young lady is over. From now on, we are the masters of this villa." At this time, Gage finally spoke. He looked at me with a frivolous gaze and an arrogant tone. "Maya, I'll give you one last chance. If you're willing to compromise, I can spare you. After tomorrow, I'll spare your life and let you live in the villa with us." My gaze moved from the dagger to Gage's face. "What do you mean?" Gage smiled and said, "Don't worry, we just want this villa. We won't do anything to you, as long as you're obedient. To prevent you from running away, you take off your clothes first." In front of me was Nova's dagger. Behind me, Gage was eyeing me greedily. I only hesitated for a moment before nodding in compromise. "Okay." Seeing that I was so obedient, the two of them relaxed their vigilance and walked towards me. The next second, I took out the stun gun and pressed it hard against the two of them. They immediately felt a numbness all over their bodies and collapsed to the ground. I took the opportunity to snatch the dagger from Nova's hand and looked down at the two of them. The situation changed instantly. I took out my phone, pressed the pause button, and sent the recording in which I deliberately guided the two of them to say harsh words to the police station. Seeing my actions, the two of them, even if they were stupid, reacted. They lay on the ground and stared at me viciously. "Maya, you will definitely regret your current actions. After tomorrow, you will know longer be a high and mighty yen lady, then I'll ask 10 men to gang rape you first, and then throw you into the zombie horde and let you be eaten in despair." I pretended not to know and asked with a puzzled look, "What zombies?" Gage sneered. "It's nothing, you'll know tomorrow. I will definitely make your life a living hell." 12. The sound of police sirens came from outside the alley while the police hadn't arrived yet. I looked down at the two of them and asked, "Nova, I have no enmity with you. Why do you always want to harm me? And you, Gage, I've always been nice to you, right? During our relationship, you swiped more than 20,000 yuan from me, and I never asked you to pay it back. Why do you hate me so much?" This was also a question I couldn't figure out in the previous life. Gage still had some strength. He spat and said angrily, "You were nice to me. Do you know what the other classmates said about me? They said I was just your lapdog. You, relying on your money, bossed me around, were high and mighty, and never gave me a good face. Is this being nice to me? I served you as a servant for so long, and you should have given me your money to spend." At this time, Nova also regained a little strength. While trying to sit up, she said viciously, "I just hate you. Why were you born a yen lady while I have to work so hard and still can't catch up with you? Why can you easily get into Harvard University or Peking University while I have to study so hard to strive for the quota for being recommended? Maya, you're just relying on your family's wealth. If I were you, I would be 10 times more excellent than you." The sound of the police's footsteps came from the alley. The two of them were taken away, and their crazy voices echoed throughout the small alley. "Maya, just wait. After tomorrow, we'll make you pay a price 10 times more painful than this." That's what they said, but on the way to the police station, Gage still asked Nova worriedly, "Now that we're in the police station and the supplies are all in Maya's family, what should we do?" Nova had completely gone crazy, and her eyes were shining with excitement. "Don't worry, zombies will break out tomorrow, and the police will definitely be dispatched. Then we'll take the opportunity to run away and directly go to rob the villa and kill Maya. I must make her die a painful death." On the other side, just as I sent the police away, my long-awaited brother finally called me. "Maya, the matter has been settled. This time, it's really thanks to you. The mutated people have been controlled, and the village and the surrounding area within 100 kilometers have all been blocked. Not a single one can escape. I'll tell you the details when I get home. I have to go back to the military region immediately now. This matter hasn't been released yet, so don't tell anyone." After hanging up the phone, I suddenly realized that my back was already soaked with sweat. The tragedy of the previous life was still vivid in my mind. I actually prevented an apocalypse by myself. 13. After the matter was over, I devoted myself to the intense study again. On the other hand, Nova and Gage were only detained for 15 days because they didn't cause any substantial harm to me. They were not afraid of this at all anyway. Zombies would break out the next day. They could just take the opportunity to run away at that time, but they waited and waited. Even after 15 days passed, there was no commotion in the police station. All the police officers were working in an orderly manner. The whole police station was tightly sealed. Where was there a chance for them to escape? Gage was a bit panicked and asked, "Could it be that the zombies won't break out and the end of the world won't come?" This was the worst assumption. As soon as he said this, Nova's face turned pale instantly. She clenched her hands tightly and shouted hysterically, "It's impossible. Everything written in that book has been fulfilled. The zombie crisis will definitely break out. Even if it doesn't break out now, it will definitely come in the future." After hearing her words, Gage's expression gradually became terrified and even despair. He didn't dare to think about the consequences if it didn't break out. The online loans they took, the study he had neglected, and the things he had done, he didn't even want to think about them. Now he could only pray that the zombie crisis was just postponed. Not that it wouldn't happen, however. They waited for another week, until the two of them left the police station and saw the busy traffic outside, with pedestrians going about their business as usual. Everything was the same as before. Nova panicked and grabbed a passerby, asking eagerly, "Why are you all still alive? Where are the zombies?" The other person pushed her away and cursed, "Are you crazy? Have you read too many novels?" These words brought the two of them back to reality. Gage completely lost his composure and shouted at Nova, "I think you're crazy. You've read too many novels, you want to die and dragged me along. Now what should we do?" Nova also said hysterically, "How could this be? There can't be any mistake. Where did it go wrong? Did you tell someone? Did you tell Maya? Could it be that she prevented the zombie outbreak?" The two of them looked at each other, their eyes filled with deep despair and a feeling of giving up. 14. I had studied for a whole day, just after class. Before I had a chance to go to the toilet, two black shadows flashed in front of my eyes. Then, Nova slammed me against the wall. "Maya, did you prevent the zombie crisis from breaking out? Gage told you everything." I felt the pain and frowned as I looked at her. "What are you going crazy about? I don't understand what you're saying. Don't pretend. You just can't stand to see me do well. There's no one else but you." Seeing that she was getting more and more crazy, The surrounding classmates quickly stepped forward to protect me and escorted Nova and Gage to the office. You two finally showed up. The teacher has been looking for you like crazy these days. Go to the office and explain to the teacher quickly. There's only about a month left until the college entrance examination. The words college entrance examination brought the two of them back to their senses. They glared at me resentfully, but they also knew that no matter how much they shouted, it was useless after all. The zombies didn't break out. Life still had to go on. The two of them entered the office. The head teacher looked at the two of them, and his anger welled up. Nova had already regained her calm. She cried with snot and tears, knelt on the ground, and begged the head teacher bitterly, "Teacher, I know I was wrong. Please give me one more chance. Can you organize the exam again? I will definitely study hard. I really need this quota for being recommended. I really beg you." The head teacher's face turned livid. The recommendation form has already been submitted. "Do you think this is a joke? Teacher, I can't live without this quota. If I can't get into Peking University, my life will be over. I really beg you. Now you know how to beg me. What were you doing before? Weren't you the one who said you didn't care about it?" The head teacher called Nova's parents, then he turned to look at Gage, who looked stunned as if his soul had been taken away. "As for you, you can't get into the sports school now. Try to work hard during this period and strive to get into a second-tier university." Gage's stunned expression gradually turned into pain. His beloved basketball, he was finally going to miss it. He couldn't accept this ending. Suddenly, he pushed open the door and ran out like a madman. 15. I was having lunch in the cafeteria. Suddenly, a shadow fell in front of me. I looked up and met Gage's red eyes. With the previous lessons learned, I had already been carrying a stun gun with me. Seeing this, I took it out expressionlessly. Gage shed tears. "Maya, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to apologize to you. I know you really liked me before. Please give me one more chance. I promise I'll be sincere to you in the future. Let's get back together, okay?" In such a humble tone, he seemed to have become the Gage he used to be, but I sneered. "What on earth do you think you are? Get lost before I call the police. Meh, do you really have to be so heartless? I know I was wrong. What else do you want? Everyone makes mistakes. Why won't you give me a chance to turn over a new leaf? Moreover, if it weren't for your cold and boring personality, would I have had other thoughts? Are you crazy?" I turned on the stun gun, and the sound of electricity crackled. "Not to mention that I have the right to refuse you. Just think about the disgusting things you've done. What right do you have to ask for my forgiveness? Gage, ask yourself, if your plan with Nova hadn't failed, would I still be alive and sitting here having lunch today?" After hearing my words, Gage's eyes widened in horror. "You know everything." I sneered and didn't answer. Gage gave me a desperate look, then he turned and left. In the afternoon, Nova and Gage's parents both came to the school. The news that the two of them eloped for love spread like wildfire in the school. As soon as Nova's father arrived, he slapped her without saying a word. "I've been teaching and educating people for more than 20 years. How could I have raised such a daughter? There's only 1 month left until the college entrance examination. You go back and study hard and don't show up at school again." Nova covered her face and cried loudly. "Whoa, go back to school." She didn't have the face to go back either, and when Gage's parents knew that their son had run away, they were so anxious that they went everywhere to look for him, but they only found their son's body, which had already lost its warmth, in the pond behind the school. 16. Gage was dead, but the matter was far from over. On the third day after Nova was taken home to review, the debt collection agency called her parents. Her parents couldn't believe it. "My daughter took out a loan. How is that possible? She's always been honest and well-behaved." "Heh, it's all written in black and white. If you don't pay back the money, we don't mind taking legal action." "Okay, we'll pay it back. How much is it?" 30,000 yuan including principal and interest." "What?" The two of them almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. They were both teachers. After living frugally for more than 20 years, they bought a house and a car, and the total savings in their hands were only about 200,000 or 300,000 yuan now. They had to use all of it to pay off their daughter's loan. They questioned Nova loudly. She cried and begged, saying that she knew she was wrong. The two of them wanted to beat her to death, but considering that she still had to take the college entrance examination, Nova usually had good academic performance in this college entrance examination, not to mention getting into Harvard University or Peking University. She still had hope of getting into Zhejiang University or Fudan University. Once Nova was admitted, she would have a bright future, and they shouldn't affect her exam because of what had already happened. The two of them gritted their teeth and paid off Nova's loan, but this was just the beginning. After paying off the money from the debt collection agency, there was still the credit from those supermarkets. Gage was also involved originally, but he was dead, and his parents firmly refused to admit it, so this debt fell on Nova's head again. This time, the couple could no longer hold back their anger. Why did you buy so many things from the supermarket? A total of 500,000 yuan. Are you trying to drive our whole family to death? Return the things quickly. Where are we going to get this 500,000 yuan? Where did you put so many things? Nova cried so hard that she was out of breath. They're all in the underground warehouse of Maya's villa. I haven't touched them, just return them. 17. Since they couldn't get the things back, Nova's parents went to me cursing and asked me to return the supplies. Looking at Nova's gritted teeth expression, I raised my eyes in confusion. What supplies? I don't know. There's nothing in my family's underground warehouse. Nova's voice was shrill. Impossible, Maya. You're just deliberately not giving them to me, trying to make me pay this debt. No way, I sneered and gave the security guard a look. Since you don't believe me, you can go to the underground warehouse and see for yourselves. Under the surveillance of the security guard, the three of them rushed to the underground warehouse in a hurry. However, where were there any supplies? I had already donated them to the poverty-stricken mountainous areas in the name of the company. The three of them returned home and looked at the empty house. Nova's mother sat on the ground with a thud and burst into tears. You unfilial daughter, you've ruined this family. Her father kept smoking, looking at his haggard daughter. His face was terribly gloomy. After a long while, he extinguished the cigarette butt and said viciously, Nova, now we're just hoping that you can perform well in the college entrance examination, get into a good university, and find a good job in the future to fill the hole in the family. Otherwise, we'll just pretend that we don't have a daughter like you. Nova stood there, her face pale and her body trembling. Behind her, she tightly clutched her newly released transcript of the third mock exam for 160 points, more than 300th place in the grade 18. On the day of the college entrance examination, the commendation from the military region for me came out. They even issued a statement on the official website, although the specific events were concealed. After seeing this news, Nova calculated the time and immediately knew what had happened. It was because of me that the zombie crisis was prevented. She had prepared so much, lost all her things, and was almost successful, but all of this was ruined by me. Just then, her parents nagged in her ear again. If you don't do well in this exam, you'll have to repeat the senior year of high school next year. Don't think about doing anything else. Repeat the senior year. How could she have the heart to repeat? Her life had been completely ruined. She suddenly stood up, pushed her parents away, and ran out like a madman. In the afternoon, it was the math exam. Just before entering the examination room, I suddenly heard someone calling me from behind. As soon as I turned my head, Nova slapped me in the face. Although I tried my best to dodge, I was still slapped. Seeing the scene, the security guards immediately rushed over. They held Nova up. She shouted hysterically at me, "It was indeed you who ruined my life, Maya. I will never let you go even if I die." Did I ruin your life, Nova? You know exactly what plans you had. You knew about that thing in advance but didn't report it. Instead, you coaxed Gage to cheat my money and even wanted to kill me. Nova, it wasn't me who ruined you, it was yourself. Do you really think that even if you made all the preparations, you could survive all the time when the apocalypse came? Just you and Gage, with so many supplies in a safe house, if someone came to rob you with real weapons, what could you two use to defend it? After hearing my words, Nova's face turned pale. Little by little, she had to admit that what I said was indeed reasonable, but how could she be willing to bow her head to me? Nova continued to curse. Even so, you shouldn't have been so ruthless. You killed Gage. Do you still want to kill me? Did I force you to skip class, hand in blank papers, give up the quota for being recommended to Peking University, take out online loans, and threaten others with a knife? I sneered. It wasn't me, so it wasn't me who killed Gage, it was you. After saying that, I stepped into the examination room without looking back. 19. On the day when the college entrance examination results came out, the news of Nova's death also exploded in the class group. Damn, are those rumors about her true? Did she really take out a nude loan? This is a living example. Everyone, never take out online loans in the future. Do you know how many points Nova got? More than 300 points. Damn, she never scored below 650 before. This is so scary. She took out an online loan and her grades were so poor, she was probably really desperate. But soon, the news of her death was pushed down by my college entrance examination results. Damn, Maya actually scored 713 points, even higher than the estimated score. She can choose either Harvard University or Peking University. She's rich and has excellent academic performance. She's really a winner in life. I'm so envious. I really don't understand why Gage broke up with her before and got together with Nova. These two people gave up on themselves together. They really deserve it. I glanced at the messages in the group. They were right. These two people, they really deserve to die. Story 2. After enduring many tough days, I found comfort in shopping. After marrying into a wealthy family, my husband complained about my excessive shopping, saying it showed a lack of ambition. Pointing at my head, he threatened divorce. "I've had enough of you and all this junk." Furious, he stormed out, slamming the door behind him. But the next second, the TV broadcasted, "The apocalypse will arrive in 2 hours. Please stock up on supplies locally and avoid unnecessary outings." The female anchor, her voice trembling, delivered this news. As I was still trying to gauge the credibility of the announcement, a commotion erupted outside. I peered out the window and saw people everywhere in the neighborhood, running rather than walking, as if in a frenzied pot that had just been stirred. Cars and shopping carts loaded with various foods and household items were everywhere. Anxiety and tension were written on everyone's faces. With no time to distinguish between truth and falsehood, I knew I had to join the self-help efforts quickly. In the apocalypse, the longer you last, the more hope you have. At that moment, my only thought was, I need to bring my parents here. My daughter Marissa was deep asleep in her room. After quickly ensuring there were no hazards, I locked her in the room. I grabbed my phone and started making calls while driving. When my parents picked up, they were calm and unaware. "Hello, Yvette, what brings you to call today?" Without time for pleasantries, I urgently asked, "Dad, have you been watching TV?" "What TV?" "The village committee used loudspeakers this morning to announce an electrical grid overhaul. The whole village is out of power." "What's going on, daughter?" Realizing the villagers probably didn't know about the apocalypse, I decided not to tell them directly, as they might not believe me, and my talkative mom could end up alerting the whole village, complicating our departure. I made up my mind, composed myself, and pretended nothing was wrong. "Dad, don't go out to deliver water this afternoon. Fill all the water jugs at home. Take some water purifiers and disinfectant alcohol. Also, harvest all the edible vegetables in the yard. Bring some soil and seeds, and tie up all the chickens, ducks, and geese. Bring as many shovels and hammers as you can. I'm coming to pick you up." Fortunately, our family runs a water store, and in an apocalypse, water is crucial. We had everything at home, no need to fight over it in the supermarket. My dad, full of questions, asked, "Yvette, what are you planning with all this?" I made up a reason. "Cosmos Company is having a team building tomorrow. They want to experience farm life, and we have everything they need, right? Might as well make some money for ourselves." Thankfully, our family loves money, excited by the prospect. My dad slapped his thigh. "All right, I'll get on it right now." When I arrived, my parents were ready. I quickly checked everything, ran inside to grab some of their warm clothes, and cleared out all the medicine and food from the fridge. My parents seemed to sense something was off and kept asking what was wrong. "Busy loading the car," I replied without looking up. "I'll explain on the way." Luckily, being the most decisive person in the family, whatever I decided to do, my parents would always support. My mom and I took a small car filled with smaller items, while my dad followed in a truck loaded with water. Passing by the village entrance, I saw the corner store uncle dealing with 2 idle freezers outside, while my mom chatted with him. Old man, finally willing to close this little store and go to the city to look after his grandson. It suddenly hit me, without freezers, how would we store all this food? I didn't bother to haggle over the price of the freezer with the old man. Without a second thought, I handed over 5,000 yuan and bought one to fit the large freezer into the car. We had to unload 10 barrels of water. I stuffed 5 of the barrels into the driver's seats of the small car in the truck. I gave the remaining 5 barrels to the old man, silently praying that he would make it to the day he meets his grandson. Before leaving, I reminded him to stock up on supplies and to avoid going out at all costs. The village is inhabited mostly by elderly people and children left behind. I have no idea when they will hear this news. I'm not able to help everyone, so all I could do was offer a kind word of caution. Although the city was already becoming restless, fortunately, it was during work hours in the afternoon, and the roads were only slightly congested. After hearing my stories about the apocalypse and zombies, my mom clearly didn't believe me. She chuckled at my dad through the video call, saying, "Old man, has Yvette got a fever? Where did she get this nonsense about zombies and the end of the world?" While driving, my dad joked, "If that day really comes, it will be as parents who protect you, not the other way around where you, a child, would need to protect us." I was somewhat touched. Family ties are the strongest bond in the world by default. No matter how old I get, or even if I have my own children, in my parents' eyes, I will always be their child. Squeak, the SUV in front suddenly braked, and I quickly turned the steering wheel to the side to avoid a collision. From behind, the heavy, grating Sound of my dad's truck braking could be heard. My mom and I were still shaken, standing still, when suddenly, a bloodied figure with torn flesh on its face slammed into the passenger side window, with its pallid eyes and gaping bloody mouth. It struck against the car in an inhuman pose. It scared my mom so much that she fainted on the spot. It turns out the zombie video from Q City Hospital I scrolled past 2 days ago was real. Sweating all over in nervousness, I quickly composed myself and stepped on the gas to get away. While driving, I shouted into the phone, "Dad, hurry up, people are mutating." In the rearview mirror, I saw my dad starting his truck less than 20 meters away from me and following behind. At that moment, my heart was racing, uncertain whether the road ahead was clear or if more zombies would appear. Most importantly, my daughter was alone at home. What would she do if she woke up and didn't see me, too? Fortunately, the road ahead was relatively clear. The villa Cosmobot for me is in the suburbs, primarily inhabited by residents of the community and staff from nearby businesses. There weren't many people, and the place was spacious. Even so, by the time we drove into the community, several people had already been bitten. The villa, including the basement, spans 5 floors. After parking in the garage on the first floor, we were all exhausted, concerned for Marissa. I suggested we rest first and tidy up later, ensuring no one was around. I locked the garage door and rushed upstairs to find my daughter. When I opened her room door, Marissa was sitting on the bed, crying her heart out. Seeing me, she kept reaching out and calling, "Mommy." At that moment, my heart felt as if it were being torn apart, a continuous dull pain, making it hard to breathe. I kept comforting my daughter, telling her, from today on, Marissa will have to hide from monsters in this room with Mommy, Grandpa, and Grandma. Can Marissa do that? My 4-year-old daughter, sobbing, asked, "Mommy, is it the monsters like in cartoons?" I shook my head, hesitated, and said, "It's monsters that used to be people. Don't be scared, Marissa. Mommy will protect you." I didn't plan to continue fabricating a fairy tale world for my daughter. In this apocalypse, survival is the only goal. Only by facing reality early can she always be ready to protect herself. I drifted off into a fitful sleep for a couple of hours. In my dream, Cosmo, covered in blood, moved with a wave of zombies, slowly approaching me until the fresh blood and the pungent stench of corpses filled my nostrils. I finally came to my senses. I don't know how Cosmo is doing, whether he made it home safely, or if there are enough supplies at his house, but then, I suddenly find it laughable. Initially, he was charmed by my beauty and wanted to marry me, but now he despises my impoverished appearance. He complained about my habit of buying cheap trinkets with no value or taste, accusing me of holding him back. He prides himself on being superior. Let's see if he can survive to the end. I get up at 6 o'clock sharp to take inventory of our supplies: 20 barrels of oil, 20 bags of rice, 10 bags of flour, and countless cans and compressed biscuits. All these were snapped up during supermarket promotions. Besides, there are 2,000 trash bags bought for 9 yuan for 500. And 50 power banks purchased for 38 yuan each because they looked cute, originally intended as gifts for Marissa's birthday. Chips, spicy strips, toothbrushes, toothpaste, sanitary pads, underwear, wet wipes, hand warmers, cooling patches, face masks, apples, bananas, oranges, mosquito repellent, twists, dried fruits, bread, instant noodles, batteries, and so on, all priced at 9 yuan. It didn't seem like much at first glance, but it added up to over 100,000. I tend to follow trends and pinch pennies, buying whatever is cheap or popular. During the nuclear pollution scare, everyone was stockpiling salt. Despite Cosmo's objections, I managed to hoard only 5 boxes. When the pandemic first hit, I stockpiled 100 boxes of masks before they became scarce. Of course, I also bought a bunch of useless stuff, like solar panels, biodegradable agents, and generators, bought out of curiosity, wanting to study how they worked. Who would have thought that these would become treasures in a post-apocalyptic world? I'm frugal, but I don't skimp on myself. After all, I was spending Cosmo's money. If a man's heart and body aren't yours, you might as well spend his money. Just to be fair to yourself, my parents were also busy. My dad dug up leftover building materials from when our house was last renovated. He reinforced the garage and security doors with cement and bricks. He also set up a makeshift bathroom on the roof. My mom found an empty room to separate and house chickens, ducks, and geese, and filled many foam boxes with soil to plant vegetables and fruits. At this moment, I truly feel somewhat fortunate. Cosmo works in construction, so the villa was renovated with the toughest and highest quality materials from inside out, top to bottom. Because he often criticized me for buying junk, I secretly had someone build a basement that only I know about. We stored perishable food in the basement and non-perishable food on the 3rd floor where we live. The 1st floor serves as a garage, essentially unrenovated, the 2nd floor for raising poultry, and by the way, out of curiosity, I also bought 20 chickens and kept them in the basement. The fourth floor is dedicated to toilets and growing fruits and vegetables, taking advantage of the availability of water, electricity, and gas. We thoroughly enjoyed a good bath. My mom cooked sweet and sour ribs, 4 dry meatballs, and braised pork. Our family of 4 feasted heartily, and even Marissa had a big bowl of rice. We charged all the power banks and all the electrical appliances that could operate without plugging in, and filled every container we could with water, fearing we might wake up the next day without water or electricity. Thinking it was the first night, and everyone was tired from organizing and fearful, plus the house was sturdy enough, we didn't arrange for anyone to keep watch. Recalling the zombie movies I've seen, zombies seem sensitive to noise, so we kept our voices low at home. At midnight, there were roars downstairs, like a wild beast gnawing on something, the sound of bones being crunched, unable to sleep due to fear. The 4 of us huddled under blankets on the sofa, watching The Walking Dead 2. Learned survival tactics. At that moment, my Instagram suddenly flooded with numerous messages. The residents group was unusually lively. The property management staff tried to calm everyone down in the group chat, advising against going outside and to wait for government rescue. However, someone in the group was lamenting, "My mother went out to buy groceries today and got infected. We don't have much food left at home. I don't know how many days we can last. Does anyone have any extra food?" Supplies, I'm willing to trade with money. No one responded, because everyone knew that, compared to money, food was now most important. Suddenly, a streak of light shone through the gap in the curtains onto the coffee table, and I saw someone across using binoculars, looking towards our house. I quickly turned off the TV and, with lightning speed, drew the curtains close, leaving only a dim night light on. One must be cautious of others. At times like these, what's frightening isn't the zombies, but the human heart. In this apocalypse, all I want is to keep my family safe. I was nervously sweating, covertly peeking through a corner of the curtain. Seeing that the lights in my house were off, the person turned their attention elsewhere. Thankfully, I breathed a slight sigh of relief, though I hadn't completely recovered from the scare. 5 minutes later, bang, bang, bang. Suddenly, there was a loud banging on the door downstairs. My parents instantly opened their eyes wide and sat up straight. Our whole family held our breath. The zombies downstairs had started moving towards the noise near our house. No longer caring about fear, I grabbed a baseball bat and the night light and ran downstairs. My dad followed behind me with a hoe. I opened the video doorbell on the first floor, but there was no one in sight. Just as I was about to hang up, a face covered in blood suddenly appeared on the screen. I almost screamed, but thankfully my dad quickly covered my mouth. The banging on the door resumed, this time with the person outside shouting, "Yvette, it's me, Cosmo." Although he was still conscious, I wasn't sure if he had been infected. As the zombies drew closer to our home, whether to open the door or not became a tough decision. Holding the microphone, I whispered sternly, "Don't talk, the zombies outside can follow the sound to find you." Cosmo was so frightened that he immediately quieted down, shrinking against the door, his voice trembling. "What do we do, Yvette? Please open the door and save me." Fortunately, as the noise stopped, the zombies lost direction and started wandering aimlessly. After about 10 minutes, Cosmo, unable to hold it in any longer, pleaded, "Yvette, please let me in, I'm about to wet my pants." Seeing that he hadn't turned after so long, I felt a surge of compassion and signaled to my dad with a glance, and we opened the door together. But right after opening the door, I immediately regretted it. Cosmo rushed straight to the bathroom, followed by a young girl around 18 or 19 years old, clearly still a student. The girl was not tall and had a petite figure. She had been completely hidden behind Cosmo earlier. Without even thinking, I knew what the relationship between this girl and Cosmo was. If I had known he was messing around with a girl that afternoon, I wouldn't have opened the door now. Although we have enough food supplies at home, with 2 more mouths to feed, it's unclear when this apocalypse will end, making our lives even more strained. After using the bathroom, Cosmo came out pulling up his trousers. Yvette, you really saw ahead, all this junk. I mean, these treasures really came in handy. Who else has as many supplies as we do?" I couldn't help but snap at him. "This house is in my name. It's my house, not yours. What's with the blood on your face?" He slapped his thigh. He began to chat nonchalantly as he sat on the stairs. "You wouldn't believe it, Yvette, the moment I stepped outside this afternoon, it was absolute chaos out there. I took refuge across the street, but that girl, and only orders takeout and doesn't stock any food at home. We were too scared to go out shopping, knowing you always like to buy all sorts of junk, useful things. I figured we had to come to you for help, but the streets were crawling with zombies, so we had to be brave and sneak past those that couldn't walk, smearing their blood on our faces to avoid getting chased." I felt a bit disdainful inside, realizing he had stashed his mistress right across the street. Was he the one spying with binoculars earlier? While I was still pondering this, Cosmo spoke up again. "Yvette, we didn't come empty-handed, even though we've brought no food. I did bring a bunch of high-tech gear. He probably opened a large sack branded with a donkey logo on the ground, binoculars, drones, gaming consoles, remote-controlled planes, a whole sack full of various items, although I found him quite distasteful. The gadgets he brought were somewhat useful, so I took the sack and pointed to the top floor. From today, you two will stay on the 4th floor. Without my permission, you're not allowed to wander off. We 3 will take turns keeping watch every day. As Cosmo passed the 3rd floor, he greeted Marissa and almost got kicked down the stairs by me that night. Except for Cosmo and his companion, none of us could really sleep. The next morning, my mom suggested we prepare for potential power and water cutoffs by organizing our food supplies, so we washed and pre-cooked the corn, sweet potatoes, and potatoes we had and then froze them in the fridge. We also pickled some cabbage and cured some bacon for long-term storage. The duo upstairs hadn't even gotten out of bed yet. I was teaching Marissa phonetics in the living room when suddenly there was a commotion downstairs. I saw 3 young and strong guys, with backpacks on and pushing 4 carts full of supplies, running ahead with about a dozen zombies trailing behind them, clearly unable to catch up. I had seen them yesterday when I went to pick up my parents. They were camping on the lawn next to our complex, and there were about a dozen of them at that time. I wondered how the others were doing. My dad crossed his arms and clicked his tongue twice. Youth is a great advantage. I thought they were very clever. It was only the 2nd day of the zombie outbreak. The numbers were still manageable, and there were still supplies in the supermarket. It was risky, but it was still possible to gather resources. Sure enough, not long after, they headed out again armed with rackets and axes. 20 minutes later, they dragged back 3 more shopping carts. Then, they went out once more and this time returned driving a large truck from the supermarket, backing it into the nearby garage before everything went quiet. Soon after, messages started popping up in the residents group chat. Homeowner 2, did you see those 3 students just now? Where did they find so many supplies? The supermarket was almost empty when I went yesterday. Homeowner 11, they probably raided the storage area behind the supermarket. I saw people rushing in yesterday, but no one came out. Homeowner 27, then we should also form a group and try our luck. We can't just sit at home and wait to die. Our food won't last a week. The conversation continued with various residents volunteering, spontaneously forming several small groups. My dad picked up a hammer, ready to sign up, but I immediately stopped him. Dad, we have so much at home, there's no need for you to go out now. You'd only draw attention. If we really run out of food, others will start targeting us. We have young and elderly here. How could we resist? He sighed. Now that we have 2 more people, I don't think our supplies will last 6 people for 3 months. It's all because we came. You and Marissa will definitely make do. I patted his shoulder. The most important thing is that we're together as a family. Without you guys, what would be the point of Marissa and I living? I gestured upstairs with a pout and whispered, don't worry about the supplies. I haven't laid out all the food where it can be seen. I've hidden it well already. After hearing this, Dad finally felt relieved. There was noise coming from downstairs again. The small squad had returned. Mom and I leaned out the window to look down. As they returned, each person had 1 or 2 shopping carts. The rattling of the carts was loud, attracting a lot of zombies. I saw 2 elderly people with white hair struggling to keep up with the pace of the group and gradually falling behind. A relentless zombie bit into the old lady's neck. The old man turned to help her, but it was futile. He was quickly overwhelmed by the zombies. A muscular man, who was running ahead quickly, suddenly turned around. I thought he was going to save them, but instead, he grabbed the abandoned shopping cart and ran off. This elderly couple, both retired university professors, usually loved gardening and taking care of small animals. They always nodded and greeted me whenever we met. Now, seeing them devoured by zombies before they could even turn, left me feeling deeply saddened. Mom quietly cursed the muscular man, but Dad was more philosophical. At a time like this, everyone wants to save their own life. If he had tried to save the old man, he wouldn't have escaped the zombies either. For lunch, Mom prepared 4 dishes and a soup, cola chicken wings, garlic ribs, mixed stir-fry, and stir-fried lettuce. The aroma was enticing. There was finally some movement upstairs, stretching and yawning. Someone asked from the top of the stairs, Yvette, can I come down for lunch? Considering he would be the main worker in the afternoon, I hesitated, then nodded. At the dining table, before Marissa could finish a chicken wing, the 2 of them had swept through the ribs and even emptied the rice cooker. Cosmo's appetite was too big. This couldn't go on. I put down my chopsticks and said sternly, Cosmo, where do you think you would be if I hadn't taken you in? He was scooping rice from his bowl, not even looking at me. Need you ask? I'd have turned into a zombie long ago. Shouldn't you be thanking me then? Of course, Yvette, you're like my reborn parents. In that case, either earn your food through labor or pay for it. Without hesitation, Cosmo agreed. Pay for it, Yvette, I have plenty of money. I said cheerfully. Then it's 100,000 per meal. Per person, for the two of you, it's 200,000, that's not too much, right? Hearing the figure, and almost flipped the table. 200,000, why don't you just rob us? I gestured with my hand, invitingly. If you think it's expensive, feel free to leave. Cosmo quickly held her back. At a time like this, what use is money anyway? 200,000 it is. Besides, I'm giving it willingly. Why are you making a fuss? I knew well that money was the least useful thing now. But I couldn't stand seeing them without making them pay up a bit. After they finished eating and wiped their mouths, they went upstairs. Dad was still worried about how to handle the trash. I suggested putting the trash bag in the toilet and dealing with it afterwards. Our house was on the last row on the outer side of the neighborhood, next to an empty lawn. Every time we dealt with the trash, we threw it from the second floor onto the lawn. It wasn't too noisy and also took care of any security risks. A week later, the power and internet went out simultaneously, with temperatures soaring close to 45 degrees Celsius outside. Marissa was lethargic all day, and my parents were equally drained. I regret not buying more solar panels. The stored electricity couldn't cope with the consumption needs of our 6-person household. Our only solution was to freeze bottles of mineral water and then place them around the house to cool the air, which was somewhat effective. Cosmo, acting like a spoiled young master, lay straight on the floor, continuously drinking mineral water until he started belching from it. Before long, the freshly replaced water from the morning was reduced to less than half a bucket. Seeing me glaring at him, he frowned and dismissed me irritably. What are you looking at? Can't I even drink some water now? Then he threw a card at me. There are 50 million in here. I'm buying the rights to live here for 3 months. The PIN is 175888. I took his card. Silently looking at the mere 10 buckets of water we had left. On day 87 of the apocalypse, the relentless heat had tormented us beyond recognition. It rained all day yesterday, and the temperature finally dropped, but our relief was short-lived as everyone was awakened by the cold at night. The indoor thermometer showed minus 40 degrees Celsius. After the extreme heat came the severe cold, causing coughs, runny noses, and fevers in varying degrees for my parents and Marissa. At this time, everyone's health was severely tested. I distributed some medicine to the 3 of them, with 1 heating pad each. The 4 of us huddled together to sleep. Fortunately, by the next day, everyone's symptoms had somewhat eased, perhaps due to the weather. The zombies downstairs hardly moved. Large snowflakes began to drift outside the window, and soon, the zombies were buried under the snow. The vegetables on the rooftop were definitely frozen and ruined. Our supplies were also dwindling, and watching the food decrease day by day made my parents even more worried. For the Mid-Autumn Festival, my mom made dumplings specially. My dad complained about wasting resources, but mom just gave a bitter smile. Who knows if we'll make it to next year, or if we can even be together again. Consider this the last dumplings we might have. Tears streamed down her face as she kneaded and rolled out the dough with all her might. Once the dumplings were cooked, steaming hot. It had been a long time since we had freshly made dumplings, and the 6 of us ate about 200 lately. Cosmo and haven't been participating much in our activities, even taking their meals up to the 4th floor to eat. I couldn't afford to speculate about their intentions. As long as they posed no threat to my parents and child, I let them be. Perhaps the dumplings brought some much-needed warmth, as shortly after eating, everyone was overwhelmed by sleepiness and slept till noon the next day. When I came to my senses, I realized that Cosmo and who were supposed to be on duty, had disappeared. I searched the entire building to find that all the chickens, ducks, and geese were gone, and only a little water was left in the water dispenser. Opening the bottle of melatonin, it was completely empty. It immediately dawned on me, they had mixed all the melatonin into the water, making us drink it, which explained why they didn't take any water yesterday. Seeing the food supply dwindling, they had simply stolen all the supplies to ensure their own survival, leaving us to fend for ourselves. The dark side of human nature was fully exposed. The front door on the 1st floor was wide open, letting the cold wind rush into the house, giving me a shiver. Cosmo clearly didn't plan on leaving us anyway to survive. If it weren't for the cold freezing the zombies, how could our family of 4 have slept safely in the house? I secured the front door and rushed back to the 3rd floor, where my mom, looking at the empty chicken and duck pens, exclaimed, "Oh my God, where are my chickens? Where are the ducks? Where have all my geese gone?" Light shone directly into my eyes from across the way. Pulling back the curtains, I saw Cosmo and standing on the balcony, hands on hips, looking smug as can be. Behind them was a pile of supplies they had stolen from my house. Cosmo flipped me off and made a face at me. "Well then, I've been harboring 2 wolves in my home for 3 months." Back inside, my dad was relatively calm, but my mom sat on the sofa, constantly Wiping away tears, I comforted her, staying cool and collected inside. It was still uncertain between our family and those two, Cosmo and who would ultimately come out on top. What no one knew was that I had hidden most of the supplies in a basement that even Cosmo didn't know about. Day 105 of the apocalypse, the temperature had warmed up a bit, so I cracked the window to let in some air. Marissa, gnawing on a potato, said to me, "Mom, I think I can smell barbecue." Honestly, I smelled it. 2. I pulled back the curtain slightly and saw Cosmo and on the opposite balcony, setting up a makeshift grill and starting to barbecue. Cosmo was dismantling a cupboard to use for firewood, and the clanging of the hammer echoed throughout the neighborhood. The zombies downstairs started to stir, but they were frozen in the snow and couldn't get out yet. The smoke and smell of the barbecue spread everywhere. You should know. Some people must have already reached their breaking point. Their actions were purely suicidal. My dad clicked his tongue. Rich people really know how to enjoy life. They can't handle a bit of hardship. Marissa clamored for some meat, but under the circumstances, we dared not produce even a hint of cooking smoke. A couple of days ago, the laying hens finally began to nest and lay eggs. I coaxed her into going to the basement to fetch some eggs, small and fun, and nutritious too. Her attention was quickly diverted. At midnight, while I was on watch in the living room, I heard rustling noises from downstairs. I hurried to the window. In the dark, I saw several strong men with flashlights, tiptoeing towards Cosmo's house. They shattered the glass on the first floor and one by one, crouched, they climbed inside. Soon, there were shots from Cosmo and cries from an inside, after a flurry of crashing noises, and was thrown naked from the top floor, hitting the ground without another sound. Shortly after, the group of men walked out the front door on the first floor, each carrying something. By the moonlight, I recognized the face of the leader. It was the muscle man who had stolen supplies from the elderly couple next door. His gaze swept over our house, then suddenly fixed in my direction. My heart tightened. Frightened, I quickly pulled the curtains closed, leaving just a small gap to watch. I saw him whisper something to his companion and then look back at me, smirking coldly. That smirk made me uneasy, wondering if Cosmo had told them something since he stole the supplies. We had isolated ourselves, not giving any indication that there were people inside. Cosmo probably thought our house was empty. It didn't seem likely, but I still felt uneasy. In the latter part of the night, the temperature suddenly rose sharply, and the zombies became more agile, starting to move slowly. The next morning, just as dawn broke, my mom was about to make breakfast when cries for help came from outside. On the first floor opposite, a blood-covered person was crawling on the ground. I recognized him immediately as Cosmo, who seemed to have been severely beaten the previous night, but he didn't know that the snow had melted outside, and the zombies were now freely moving. His cries attracted the nearby zombies, and soon he was overwhelmed by their howls. When the zombie crowd dispersed, only a pool of blood remained. My mom watched, then looked at his motionless, naked body thrown by the roadside, her eyes filled with sorrow. I sighed. The wicked have their own tormentors. I was in a great mood, quickly secured the doors and windows, and threw a packet of hot pot base onto the table. "Mom, let's have hot pot today," my mom exclaimed. "Who eats hot pot early in the morning?" I shrugged it off. "Let's have a good meal. We still have work to do later." We hadn't had hot pot for a long time, and we thoroughly enjoyed it with the spicy dipping sauce. Last night, the muscular men made me incredibly anxious. A voice in my head kept telling me to hide. Immediately, I felt I had to do something, so I called my parents to start dividing tasks. "Mom, mess up the kitchen, overturn the tables and chairs, and take all the bedding and clothes to the basement." "Dad, move 2 beds to the basement, clean the chimney, and run an electrical wire. From today, we are living in the basement." Day 112 of the apocalypse, the zombies in the neighborhood were gone. Suddenly, gunshots rang out outside. I ran to the ground floor and saw that the muscular men had started searching the buildings one by one for supplies. He had a gun in his hand, followed closely by several brawny men with dragon and phoenix tattoos. Every door had been fortified. By 5 o'clock in the afternoon, as it began to get dark, they had only finished searching for residences. They came out empty-handed. These few homes clearly had no one left, probably starved to death already. As they were about to reach my house, I was sweating nervously. Although we were hiding in the basement, the door to our house had been fortified from the inside. And with 2 cars parked in the garage, it made no sense for them not to find any bodies upon breaking in. The entrance to the basement was under the carpet. It could be found if searched carefully. I was extremely anxious, silently strategizing in my mind. My parents, holding weapons, also clenched their fists tightly. The muscular leader headed towards my house, getting closer to the front door by the second. My heart was pounding as if it was about to leap out of my mouth. Suddenly, a young Follower said, "Boss, there's definitely no one here. I saw her drive away the day the zombie outbreak happened." Another joked, "With so many people, how come you specifically remember her?" The first follower replied, "Every time I picked up a delivery, I'd run into this lady. She had a fair and lovely face, a great figure, curvy in all the right places. I just remembered her. I bet she's a kept woman living alone. A real foxy look. Ugh, discussing me like this in front of my parents." My face burned with embarrassment, and I wished I could hide back in the basement. The muscular man finally said, "Search this house, and then we rest for today." The footsteps drew nearer. It seemed we were only separated by this door. My heart leaped into my throat. Another follower weakly suggested, "Boss, maybe we should search tomorrow. The smell outside is unbearable. The house we just checked, the bodies were so decayed. My stomach is still cramping. I don't want to see any more." He then made a retching sound and started a chain reaction of vomiting among the others. Indeed, the sight of bodies frozen for 3 months then subjected to high heat was stomach turning. About 10 seconds later, the muscular man said, "Pack up." That sleazy voice was, at that moment, music to my ears, so they left with a clatter. Just as I was breathing a sigh of relief, my mom trembled. "Yvette, what are we going to do tomorrow?" My dad slammed a hammer on the floor. "Yvette, tomorrow you and Marissa hide well in the basement. My parents are getting older, and they insist that if it comes to the worst, they would protect my mother and me at all costs." After saying this, tears fell from his eyes. This was the first time I remember ever seeing him cry, and my mother echoed him, saying, "Yes, even if it costs us our lives, we must protect our daughter and granddaughter." I hugged them and quietly comforted them. "Mom and Dad, it's okay. We've been through so much already. We'll get through this too." Though I was comforting them, I was also reassuring myself as I already had a plan in my mind. However, during dinner, seeing the instant noodles in front of each of us topped with 5 eggs alongside dishes of beef, fish, shrimp, and canned ham, I realized they were treating it as possibly our last meal. At night, I took out the visual drone from my backpack and practiced operating it indoors. At 3 in the morning, I opened the window and released the drone, which I had attached 10 chickens to. I dared not attach a phone for fear of attracting unwanted attention. The drone, with only 2 hours of battery life, could only fly within a 15-mile radius, but after searching for over an hour, I couldn't spot a single zombie in the city. Had they all been cleared out, the drone flew for about another half hour, and still, no zombies were seen. The spark of hope in my heart slowly died out. All our family wanted was to survive. Why must they corner us like this? My palms were sweaty, and I nearly slipped several times while operating the controls. Soon, the screen started to alert me that the battery was running low. Reluctantly, I had to recall the drone, feeling hopeless and resigning myself to our fate. But on the way back, I suddenly saw a dense, moving shadow in the distance approaching. I saw about 30 or 40 zombies slowly following a female zombie. The female zombie constantly pointed at something, directing the horde with the movements of her hand. This zombie was beginning to evolve. Without a moment to spare, I lowered the drone towards the female zombie. The chirping of the chickens instantly attracted her, and she began reaching for the drone. Seizing the moment, I quickly maneuvered the drone towards my home, instructing my father to close the yard gate and open the security door. Sweating profusely, I approached the zombies while fearing they might destroy the drone midway. As the zombie horde neared the yard, I discarded the drone and released 3 more looting chickens inside the house before quickly hiding in the basement. Soon, they climbed over the fence and entered the first floor. The security door automatically closed behind them. Sounds of chickens, zombie roars, screams, and the noise of things being smashed filled the air above. I turned up the volume on Marissa's headphones, and our family of 4 clung tightly together, not daring to breathe loudly. I swear, even thinking about that night now feels like a nightmare, sending shivers down my spine. At 5 in the morning, the noise upstairs finally ceased, with only occasional zombie howls heard. We dared not make any sound, quietly waiting for help to arrive. Marissa was getting restless and softly called out, wanting to go upstairs. I covered her mouth to soothe her. Then came the bang, bang, bang of someone smashing at the door. I knew then that Muscle Man and his group had finally arrived. The zombies were drawn to the noise, all squeezing towards that small door, but our house was well soundproofed. The people outside couldn't hear the commotion inside. As the zombies rammed and the people outside hammered, the security door eventually gave way. The zombies swarmed out, and the group of strong men outside were momentarily stunned by the evolved zombies' overwhelming strength. None of them escaped. They were either transformed or reduced to nothingness. With that, we managed to survive another calamity. Day 475 of the apocalypse. Since the incident with the muscular Man, we haven't ventured outside and have continued to live in the basement. The stench of decay wafts through the ventilation ducts, pungent and unbearable, forcing us to live with masks on. Our supplies have dwindled significantly, and just waiting around isn't a solution. I plan to go out and scout the situation. Cracking open the basement door, I tossed a block of wood outside and waited about 3 minutes with no response. After a while longer, I cautiously peeked out, aside from the dried, darkened bloodstains and chaotic signs of struggle on the ground. There was no one around. Walking towards the door with my hand on the wall, the sunlight hitting my face was so intense that it was blinding. After not stepping outside for a year, this harsh light was extremely uncomfortable. It took a while for my eyes to adjust, just enough to squint and survey the outside. There were no zombies nearby, just a few scattered in the distance, moving slowly, many of them crawling on the ground. It seemed that without food, their functions had nearly depleted. Suddenly, the sound of rapid gunfire filled the sky, stirring the zombies into greater movement. Though they were clearly too weak to pose any threat, a helicopter hovered overhead, broadcasting, "Citizens, we will be spraying a chemical in 3 hours to eliminate the zombie virus. The chemical is harmful, so to avoid inhalation, please stay in enclosed spaces. This battle, we are about to win. Great news." It seemed the government had found an effective way to stop the spread of the virus. Overjoyed, I quickly opened the basement door wide and let my family out for some fresh air, then made a makeshift door with wooden planks. I had my father block the ventilation ducts to prevent any of the chemicals from seeping in. Then, my family stayed in the basement for 3 days, waiting for the chemical residues in the air to completely dissipate. Day 478 of the apocalypse. When we emerged, the neighborhood was bustling. Soldiers in camouflage were continuously unloading instant noodles, bread, and bottled water from trucks. Having stayed in the basement for so long, our nearly translucent, pale faces stood out starkly from those around us. My mother, overwhelmed with relief and joy as she accepted the supplies, kept murmuring, "Thank you, nation. Thank you, government." Marissa, held in my father's arms, even gave a soldier a clumsy but heartfelt salute. Everyone's face was lit up with smiles of having survived the ordeal. 2 months later, the government repaired our house for free. I held the death certificate and cancelled my divorce application with Cosmo. I inherited all his property, including a card totaling $300 million. Not wanting to part with my parents, I had them close our old water store and opened a new one near our home to keep them occupied. Occasionally, when Marissa was on vacation, I took them traveling around the world. I still loved shopping, but in front of my parents, I wasn't criticized for buying junk anymore. They always looked on with curiosity as we learned about online shopping and open packages together. Having lived through such a catastrophe, we silently adopted a new philosophy of life: live in the moment and enjoy life to the fullest. One day, after picking up Marissa from school, I saw from afar my parents waiting at the door. Marissa let go of my hand and happily ran towards her grandparents. As the sun set, her small shadow stretched very long, extending from my feet all the way to my parents. A gentle breeze felt wonderfully cool on my face. I just felt, truly, it's good to be alive.